He took money out of your account.
We've split money back and forth. I wasn't keeping tally.
I'm asking you what you...
If I sent her money, she sent me...
Just a second. Just a second. Now it's going to get difficult.
This is Judy Justice. Jill Wyatt is suing her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, for the money he spent while she was in jail.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 3046, Wyatt versus Moore.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Wyatt, how long were you and Mr. Moore in a relationship?
We've known each other for about 18 years.
Did you ever live together?
On a couple of occasions.
When was the last time you lived together?
January, I believe, 2022.
Were you living in a house or an apartment?
It was a house.
Was it a lease?
Yes.
Was the lease in your name, Mr. Moore's, or both?
No. Apparently, it was an arrangement that he had with the person that he gave the money to. There was no paper.
We're getting far off the field, but it's getting more interesting. Now, Mr. Moore, Miss Wyatt, although I believe she probably has a good memory of this, I have just a sense that she's reluctant to give me information about this for whatever reason. In January of 2022, sir, you and the plaintiff were living in a house together.
No.
When were you living in a house together?
We've never had a relationship. We've never lived together. When you say live together, I come over. I got a girlfriend I've been having for the whole time, so I've never lived with her.
Do you remember the house she's talking about,
yes,
sir?
Yes, I do.
All right.
The one she destroyed.
I don't want you, just a second. I don't want you to play around with me.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay. Do you know the house she was talking about when the two of you were together some of the time in a house in January of 2022? That's a yes or a no?
Still a no.
Okay. So the house that she's talking about, you lived in alone?
I lived in with my girlfriend, actually.
Oh, just a second. Did Miss Wyatt ever come to stay in that house with you before you had your then current girlfriend?
When I first got the apartment, Miss Wyatt was going to come. She didn't get along with the lady upstairs. She said she wouldn't come, destroyed the house and left.
Okay. Well, if she destroyed the house, then she was in the house.
Just
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
If she destroyed the house, then she was in the house. And if she didn't get along with the lady upstairs, she wouldn't know that unless she actually lived there because she's not telepathic.
Okay.
So she was, in fact, there.
I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, man.
What I'm saying is not difficult. She did, in fact, stay there with you for a while after you got this house.
Okay.
Not okay.
No, I'm seeing where you're trying to go with that. I'm trying to see what you're establishing. Yes, she did stay there. I'm agreeing with you. That was me saying yes, ma'am.
No. Taking a long time, but we're there. Okay. And then at some point, Miss Wyatt, you left there and you went into your own apartment?
Yes.
Okay, and where is your apartment?
I moved into a trailer.
That you were renting?
Yes.
I just want to know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's the trailer that he was supposed to pay rent on and utilities on when you went to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
So from 2020 until the time you went to jail for, what, 18 months?
78 weeks. Or, I'm sorry, 78 days.
What did you go to jail for?
In 2018, I received a, I'm sorry.
Just a second. 2018, you had a conviction.
Yes, I ended up serving the time in 2022 for
theft.
Correct. I stole Thanksgiving dinner, ma'am.
Are you sure? It sounds like 78 days is a lot. Were you on probation first?
Yes.
Did you take a plea in that case?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of the plea, you were placed on probation?
Correct.
What was the crime that you pled guilty to? I want to understand this. What, was it petty theft? Was it grand larceny? What was it?
No, it was retail fraud / shoplifting for $170.
Okay.
That's what it's.
And you were placed on probation?
Yes.
Why was your probation violated? Because that clearly was why you went to jail for 78 days, not because of an old crime, but because you violated probation.
I wasn't keeping in contact with my probation officer like I was supposed to.
Okay. So this case is about the fact that you asked Mr. Moore, who you knew for a long time, to take care of your expenses, your bills, while you were incarcerated, and you gave him your phone.
Yes.
Your phone had the wherewithal, and you he understood that because he acknowledges he used it to take money out of your bank account and pay bills,
Correct.
et cetera, with it. And you acknowledge that she gave you her phone for that purpose.
She gave me her phone not to pay bills, but to give her commissary and to keep up with her stuff.
Pay her bills, some to put in her commissary. And the last thing you said was pay her bills and...
Put money in her commissary and keep up with some stuff.
That's the keeping up with some stuff is what we're talking about here, sir. Keeping up with what stuff?
Phone bill, I mean...
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Now it's going to get difficult.
Okay, I'm listening.
Do you understand? I know you are, sir. Keeping up with other stuff. Phone bill.
She bought a...
Jump.
I'm sorry, I'll wait till you
What
ask the
else?
question.
Phone bill?
She ended up buying a computer at that time.
No, I'm asking you.
So, no, I'm telling you, that came off the monies that was there. She was incarcerated. So as a lot of things just come off the phone as a bill, like...
No, I'm asking you what you...
What did I?
What you were supposed to take care of.
It was never etched out. And what I'm saying is she wanted me to stay at her house while she was gone. And that was a means for her to keep in touch with me or keep in contact.
Okay, no. That's something that I didn't get out of this. So... She wanted you to stay in her trailer, because she was living in a trailer at the time while she was incarcerated.
Yep.
Where had you been living?
At my house. That's where I currently live now, with my girlfriend.
With your girlfriend. She wanted you to stay in her trailer?
Yeah.
With your girlfriend?
No. She wanted me to be there so she can keep up with me. That was a means of me having her phone and being in her car and being other thing would be a way for her to keep up with me while she was incarcerated.
And did you like that idea, Mr. Moore?
Not
Just
really.
a second.
No.
I mean, did your girlfriend like that idea?
Not at all.
So why didn't you say to her, I don't want your phone and I don't want any responsibility. Shh, listen to me. I'm living with my girlfriend. We're not an item anymore. And I don't want that tie because my girlfriend knew that I was staying sometimes in your trailer and not being home. That wouldn't be a good thing. So I'm not going to take your phone. Find somebody. Who are you?
Andrew Porter. I'm her son.
You're her son. Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with you?
No.
Do you talk to your mother?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you work?
Yes.
Yeah. So your mother could have given you her phone and said, pay the bills.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
You can stand next to your mother. It's getting more fascinating by the moment.
Jill Wyatt claims her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, misused money she gave him while she was in jail. John is countersuing for a false arrest.
So, do you understand, Miss Wyatt? I know that you thought it was going to be easier when you came here.
No, I did not. But
I'm very glad, because I have a feeling I could scratch the surface and I'd find more dirt. The more I scratched.
You would.
The more I scratched. Well, I have no intention of spending my life on this nonsense, because now I see that you have a perfectly normal child, an adult child, to whom you could have assigned the task of paying your bills. And I assume that you trusted him more than you trusted this guy who seems to have a girlfriend, but then, it could be convenient. He can go here.
It's never painted that way when it's in the midst of things, but he...
I also work out of state.
What?
I work out of state. I'm like a field engineer, so I'm only in Michigan maybe a couple weeks at a time.
That's okay.
I mean,
paying your bills doesn't mean that you have to be in Michigan. You can pay your bills, and you could have done all of those things, except anyway, this is your case. You allege that Mr. Moore took money out of your account, a couple of $1,000.
$781 of that he gave to me while I was in jail, but the remainder, he can't account for anything that he did.
So somebody did put in your commissary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he said he also sent you, there was $600 in the account when he gave the phone back to you. Was there $600 in the account when you were released from jail?
The date of that?
What's the date of it, sir?
She asked the question, but the answer did I give it to her? I don't have the, I didn't know I was going to come to court, so I didn't. But if I look at my phone, I'm quite sure, because all our transactions were via Cash App.
What do you mean you didn't know you were coming to court? Where did you think you were coming today?
When we were in this situation, never did I think we would be sued.
Oh.
So I wasn't keeping tally.
But now you know you're coming to court, so it would seem to me if there's an allegation in your answer that I returned the phone to her, there was still $600 in the account, at least I would have that document.
Give me a second, I can get right to it.
I can give you a second.
I believe that amount was for the August rent on it.
Just a second. All I'm asking you is, did he put $600, when he gave you the phone, was there still $600 in the account?
No, that was like a month after. That was for August.
What do you mean it was for August? What does that mean?
For the August rent. This whole thing with not living with me and not being with me or whatever is untrue. When I got out of jail, we were supposed to be working together, living together. This was anything like he's describing with having somebody else or anything like that.
I would like to see, Mr. Moore, when you gave her back the phone, that there was $600 on the phone.
It's her phone. I'm not sure.
Just a second.
I'm saying I don't have evidence of her phone.
Okay, now.
But if you asked her, she'll tell you I gave her $600.
You say that the money that you used, and you acknowledge that you used some of the money, was because you drove her car for a half a block.
Nope, it was more than a half a block.
Well, just a second, let me see.
It says that.
Just a second. I drove her car 1 block to my job. So it wasn't a half a block. Just a second. I drove her car 1 block. I apologize, it wasn't half a block. Put your hand down. To my job when she was in jail, and the alternator went out, and it was impounded. Now explain that to me. You drove her car, you had your own. For some reason, you drove hers. Why don't you give me a 1 sentence as to why you drove hers?
1 sentence.
1 sentence.
On my truck, I had my equipment, my lawn equipment, and I was just going 1 block away, so I didn't want to have to turn it around. And the car was impounded at my job, 1 block away from my house.
Why was it impounded?
Because it stopped on it. The alternator stopped.
Just a second. Cars aren't impounded because an alternator stopped.
The alternator stopped in the middle of the street. I couldn't move it. They had to tow it because it was in the driveway. They towed the car because the alternator stopped.
What you said? Well, that's your fault, sir.
It's my fault her alternator went out?
Yes, sir. It's your fault that the car was impounded.
I'm listening. No, I'm really trying to understand.
I want you to listen. Yes, it's your fault. And I don't know what other nonsense there is here, but if Sarah was driving her car and it stopped running because the alternator went out, I'm going to take a guess and I'm going to say, Sarah, what would you do if your car stopped running in a driveway, blocking the driveway? What would you do?
Call AAA.
Call AAA. Call a tow truck. And you would call a tow truck and ask the tow truck to take it to a
auto repair shop.
To an auto repair shop. Your first clue would not be just to leave the truck there and say, send it to impound.
No, it happened.
Just a second. Mr. Moore, please try not to test yourself on the dumb scale. Nobody who's responsible because a car breaks down leaves it in the middle of the road to be impounded. That doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Second thing I'm concerned about is when your car is impounded, in order to get it out of impound, which you say that you did, you have to show proof of title.
Yes.
Yes. Now, how did you get proof of title?
Because I had the title. I had the title.
Just a second. I hear the wheels. I hear. You had the title because?
I had access to her house.
Well, the title is in her name.
Right.
They wouldn't give you the car. You're not her. I mean, I would look at you and I say, not even close. Unless she gave you authorization in writing to get the car out for her, no impound service is going to let you take her car because anybody can pick up a title and say, I want that car out. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you want to try that again with me?
Here's my question. I end up getting
No, just a second.
Okay.
I want you to tell me where it was impounded.
It was impounded at my job. It was impounded and it was in a place that was a high traffic. I walked back to the house.
I want to tell you something. You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face, Mr. Moore.
That's what happened.
You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face and introduced itself to you.
Okay.
Now, how much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
It cost me $1,000 total.
No, it didn't cost you anything because she took it out of her phone. Didn't cost you. It cost $1,000
to get it insured, retitled, so I could have the ability to get the car out.
Well, how did you get her name on the title?
What you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? She has to sign it over to you in order to...
It was already signed over to me. It was already signed over. It was already signed. I sell cars, Miss Judy.
Just a second. You don't sell cars. You just told me that your car broke down on the way to your place of business.
Yeah, to my job.
On your job, and your job is not an auto mechanic or salesman for a car service, which is what you told me. I sell cars, Miss Judy. That's why the title was turned over to me, signed over, and I managed to get the car titled in my name. You want to try this on for me?
Judge Judy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, but I was in a situation where it was impounded. They were charging $30 every single day, and she would have lost her car. So
just say you
Just a second.
No, I didn't.
Just a second.
I didn't forge anything.
Well, you had to have forged something, sir, because if it was in impound, and what you're saying is they were charging $30 a day, she was going to lose her car. Your next statement was, because you keep digging that hole a little deeper and a little deeper, you couldn't get it out because the car was in her name, not yours, but you had the title because you had access to the trailer, which is what she's suggesting, and you went and forged her signature, got a new title, got insurance, and the car was clearly towed, but you got it out of impound, that's what you said, with a new title in your name and insurance, also, I assume, in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the car?
Gave it back to her when she got out.
Just a second. You gave it back to her. Did you sign over the title?
Yes.
Shh.
Jill Wyatt has accused her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, of stealing her money while she was in jail. John is countersuing, claiming Jill had him falsely arrested.
Now, did you sign over the title to her?
I signed over everything to her because she sold the car since then.
Oh, did you sell the car?
Since all this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. But
I'm what?
He's what?
I had to go through police department and the sheriff's department and threaten him in order to get my title back. He would not give me back my title.
Not at all.
Do you have any
truth.
proof of that?
Any proof of?
That you had to go through the police department, sheriff's department, or anything else in order to get your title back? Do you have any proof of that at all?
I don't have any proof of that, ma'am.
Okay. So it was $1,000 for impound that he took out of your account.
Correct.
That's $1,000.
No.
And
Okay.
did you take out $1,000 from her account to get it out of impound? Well, you just said. Show me that you paid $1,000 to get it out of impound.
I can't show it to you because all the paperwork was in the car.
Did you pay impound by credit card or
I paid
cash?
it by cash.
Cash. Then you would have taken cash out
I had
from.
a job, Judge Judy. I made
You're so full of baloney, sir.
I did have a job, Judge Judy.
You're so
How's that
full of baloney. Okay, $1,000.
Okay.
Next, you say in your answer, Mr. Moore, that you paid for it. You paid for it out of her money. You say in your answer you paid for it out of her money.
Judy, that's kind of going back and forth.
Listen.
We've split money back and forth. If I give you a copy of our Cash App, it's the exact same money back and forth over the last couple of years. I sent her money, she sent me.
Just a second.
So,
why would she do that, sir, if you have a girlfriend?
I'm
Why would you do
monogamously
that if you-
challenged.
Shh, listen. Why would you do that back and forth if what you said to me earlier was, I don't know what she's talking about. I live with my girlfriend in the same place as I'm living now. Now let's move on to, so far I have $1,000. And I really, Miss Wyatt, don't understand anything else. And I'm not spending any more time with your case. That's the person who should have been taking care of your business,
Yes.
not this nonsense.
Yes.
Not this nonsense, because I'm
I
not exactly
believe- I
sure
know
whether I'm
that.
getting the whole story from this side either. All right, now you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for $2,000 for having you falsely arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
Let us move on with falsely arrested. After she gets out of jail, according to what I read, the two of you are kaput.
No.
Well, okay, here we go. We're going to go back to your answer and your counterclaim, sir. I'm going to read you what I said. On February 13th, I went out to a few bars to have a good time. Jill was at a different bar, but came and met me where I was at. Upon arrival, you're not paying attention.
Yes, I am listening to you.
On arrival, Jill started to pressure me to leave with her. I reminded her that we were no longer an item, and I didn't want to leave. She was making a scene, so we went outside to finish our conversation. That's your counterclaim. Now, pick it up from there. That's what you wrote. Try to
I wasn't
remember.
going anywhere.
Okay.
And then she told me, I'll show you. But you told me this thing's, Judge Judy, if it's not accurate, would you want me to let you go ahead? Because I didn't write that. I signed it to them. They told me I'd be able to explain this to you as we're doing this here. I stopped and said, hell no, that didn't happen. No, we didn't fight. It wasn't one block. They said, you'll get a chance to explain that to the judge.
Yeah,
when
well,
get
you
there."
shouldn't listen to anybody else, sir, when you sign a document that says, I Blash
we weren't
Moore,
idle.
being
We didn't
duly
live
sworn, deposes and says that this is accurate.
We didn't live together. We still knew
Would
each
you
other.
mind telling me what happened in the bar on February 13th?
She told me she was going to get me locked up for domestic violence because I had assaulted her. I had not assaulted her. I told her whatever, and I walked back into the bar, sat down, the police pulled up, and they said, sir, would you come step outside? Excuse me. They said, would you come step outside? I stepped outside. They said, put your hands behind your back. We're locking you up for domestic violence.
May I please have a copy of your complaint?
I can give you all this, what I have from...
Don't give me all that you have.
So you saying the complaint, I was arrested on the spot.
There was a disposition in that case.
Yes, they dismissed it.
Okay.
This is all complaint to the disposition.
Oh, here we go. The case was dismissed in the interests of justice because you agreed to pay her restitution for just a second.
Yeah.
That's what you agreed to pay her restitution in the amount of $246, which I assume represents the broken eyeglasses that she says that you broke. This says receipt of restitution monies. Same case. I, John Moore, state that I have delivered a check in the amount of $246 to the Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office. It is my understanding that this check represents the amount of restitution that is owed to the victim, according to the agreement entered into by the defendant. So you paid restitution.
Excuse me. Judge, I'm trying to, if you say something, I want to clarify.
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Did you
Just
sign
tell me
this?
when I can talk.
Did you sign this?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you're cooked.
So if
it's over.
I got a question for you.
No, I don't answer your questions.
If I get off of work, I've been to this court case 5 times in a row. It cost me $200 and some to come to court, and they said we'll dismiss all charges. There'll be no charges at all if you agree to pay $250. I've paid $800 coming to court. So
Great.
Why wouldn't I just say, hey, here, I'll pay you the money, and then try to sue you for false arrest? Because I never harmed. Where's the glasses at?
Right. Now,
where's the picture of the glasses? The police arrested me on the spot.
Mr. Moore, like a perennial victim, I really feel sorry for you. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
So if I'm
just
getting arrested
Mr.
for
Moore,
doing anything, why wouldn't I pay
it's dismissed.
$250
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I am finished with this case permanently.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This court is adjourned.
It went just like I thought it would be.
I'm pleased with the results.
She mad. I don't want to deal with her anymore.
My guards are up now.
Hey, she wanted to get her day in court. I can leave with it.
Not ask anybody for help.
She the one was locked up for. I've never been locked up for stealing. She was locked up for stealing. That's the thief. The pot calling the kettle black.
Just to be careful who you trust.
There was a great line from the defendant out there. I don't think anyone caught it. But when you asked, how is it possible that you could live with the plaintiff and have your girlfriend and all at the same time? How's that possible? And then he moved on to something else and continued rambling. But he said, Miss Judy, I'm monogamously challenged. I'm monogamously challenged.
No,
and I heard it and I started
it.
laughing and I saw no one else made any sort of reaction. And I said, I must have been the only one that heard that, or I misheard that. But I'm pretty sure that was his excuse.
It's a great line, and it's true.
Yeah, it seemed very true in that case.
I have a feeling there's a lot more there.
Yeah.
But it was
a lot more dirt to scratch.
A lot more
through,
there,
I'm sure.
but enough.
Oh.
That's a funny line. Monogamously challenged.
Cecilia Morrow is suing her ex-boyfriend, Saeed Rodriguez, for stolen property and assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3100, Moreau versus Rodriguez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Moreau, you and Mr. Rodriguez met. You began a friendship. Could you give the dog to your witness, please? You met the defendant at your place where you were both working, became friends. Shortly thereafter, you began dating, and in May of last year, you moved in together.
Yes.
Did you move into your apartment, to his apartment, or was it an apartment that you got together as a couple?
Yes, we got it together.
Who was on the lease?
It was both of us.
In October of the same year, 4 or 5 months later, you broke up.
Yes.
And your lawsuit is about what happened at the breakup and as a result of the breakup. According to your complaint, in October, the day that you, in fact, broke up, you had a fight with Mr. Rodriguez. He put his hands on you. He assaulted you. You left the house. And when you left the house, you left and went and stayed with your parents.
Yes.
You claim that Mr. Rodriguez has some property that belongs to you
Yes.
in the house, and that the assault that took place was serious enough that you should be compensated for it, despite the fact that there was no police involvement in this, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were no hospital records or no doctor's records.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you didn't go to the hospital or seek any medical care, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The defendant says that there was an argument. You did, in fact, break up. After you broke up, you came to his house, and there was an argument, and you did, in fact, assault him. He denies that he assaulted you at all at the beginning of October when you broke up. And he says that when you left, you agreed that he could keep the 2 corgis that you had together in the apartment. This is one of them, and that was in October. And sometime in December, this is his complaint, you called and said, could you take the dogs for 2 days? He said, okay, because there was a threat, and you haven't returned the dogs. He would like the corgis back, correct? Now, this is one of the corgis. Where's the other?
He was too big to fit on the plane. He's at home.
Okay, so when were the corgis purchased?
Her I got of March of last year, and the other one, Chip, I got in June of last year.
So you had one when you and the defendant moved in together?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Is this the one you had when you moved in together?
Yes.
So all the dogs were purchased after you lived together?
Yes.
Who were the dogs purchased from?
Her I got from Petland in Frisco, and the boy he found on Craigslist.
He found the dog because you wanted a second dog?
Yes.
Who paid for the dog at Petland?
I did.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is the dog registered?
Yeah.
And that's this dog?
Yes.
Sir, this is part of your complaint. You want this dog back.
Yes, ma'am.
You neither purchased the dog, correct?
Correct.
The dog is not registered in your name, correct?
Correct.
Why would you think I would give you this dog?
Because the entirety of our relationship since we bought Fatty, I was the one taking care of her in the mornings. I would wake up 6 in the morning or whatever time it was, take her out, whether it was freezing cold, hot, raining.
Who cares?
And
Who cares?
of course, but also I have here pictures where she, once after the breakup, she was stating that she can't keep the dog's not worth the money.
If you have statements that suggest that she gave you the dog, I'll read them. But on its face, the fact that you walk the dog in the morning or in the afternoon or at night has no relevance to this whatsoever.
Well, I have the messages where she's saying that the dog is, not worth anything. I need to get rid of her. She's bad. She's telling me to come pick her up.
May I see those, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Here you go.
What are you selling? Who's selling something?
She is stating that she wants to sell the dog.
That Chip?
That is the other dog, yeah.
Well, one she bought, and it's in her name, so that's definitely hers.
And also,
That's Fatty, right?
Yes.
And Chip, sir?
So it was about both of them. From the day we broke up, I kept the dogs because she couldn't keep them. She couldn't take care of them. She left them in the cage all day. And I also have evidence where, her family members are throwing cheese at her face, mistreating the dogs.
Show me. Dog looks perfectly happy to me.
Oh, you can press play.
What was that big piece of cheese that was thrown in the dog's eye?
That was my dad from TikTok.
Who did that to
My
the dog?
dad. He has a TikTok account. It's a trend on TikTok to throw it on babies' faces and dogs.
That's terrible.
It's a trend.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it's a stupid trend. I didn't partake in it, but
Why would I leave this dog in a house with a stupid person who takes out that stupidity on an animal to put a thing up on TikTok? That's absolutely outrageous.
we take care of them. They're fine.
No, you don't.
What's wrong with you? Why would you even think that that's reasonable?
Cecilia Morrow has accused her ex-boyfriend, Saeed Rodriguez, of assaulting her and stealing property. Saeed is countersuing for the return of 2 corgis and claims he was the one assaulted.
Why did you leave the dogs at his house for 2 months?
It wasn't 2 months straight. It was probably like a week or two
No,
straight.
it wasn't a week or two. What do you mean straight? You had a fight in October.
Yeah. We were co-parenting, I guess, with the dogs because I was working and so was he. So we couldn't.
Are you telling me after you broke up?
Yes.
How could you be co-parenting with somebody? You mean you would go to his house and get the dogs, or he would bring them to your
No,
house?
he would come to my house to pick them up and drop them off, and it would same way with.
And he would see you?
Yes.
He would see you?
Yes.
Did you have conversations with him?
Nothing important.
Well, I want you to tell me, after you broke up, how did you arrange that you would co-parent for the dogs?
There wasn't really an agreement. It was just, I'm busy, can you pick him up? Yes, and then same.
Not true.
All right. This argument that you had in October when you broke up, you want to tell me about it, and then I'm going to get back to the dogs.
So he assaulted me. He punched a hole in a TV. He bought the TV, but still, he punched it because I told him if he was going to put his hands on me, then we're actually done. But he punched the TV instead, and I have pictures of what he did that night.
I don't care if he punched a hole in the TV. It's his TV.
Yeah, he punched holes in the apartment that we were staying at as well.
You're still in the apartment?
Yes, Your Honor.
He's still there. Did you take her name off the lease?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't care what he did to the apartment, madam. He's still in the apartment. He's going to have to pay for any damage. Let's move. You didn't call the police as a result of whatever incident happened in the house. You said he got mad at you, he accused you of cheating. That's what you said in your complaints. He came in, he jumped up on top of the bed, and then he choked you, and then he hit you. You have photographs of that.
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at them. I'm just going to take this. I don't know what this is from. Clearly shows that something happened in her mouth. I'm not exactly sure what. She has 2 marks that she's showing me. Now, did you hit her in the mouth?
No, Your Honor.
You tell me in your own words what happened the night that she came home and you accused her of cheating.
So the night that she came home, I told her, I'm like, what are you doing? Where did you go? She starts trying to make up excuses. I show her messages. I'm like, okay, you're lying to me. I don't appreciate it. She starts going off. I start going off. Just a verbal argument. And just like how she assaulted me.
No. She didn't touch you that night.
She pushed me.
Tell me how that took place, sir, that she pushed you.
She's a very angry person, and...
No. How it came about that she pushed you.
Well, started arguing back and forth about how she wasn't doing anything wrong. I told her, yes, you are.
And now you're fighting verbally back and forth.
Yes.
And she pushed you. She put her hands on your chest.
And she...
Show me how she pushed you. Show me on your roommate how she pushed you. Go ahead. And
she just starts throwing, trying to slap me.
And
at that moment, that's when I pushed her over and I told her, do not put your hands on me.
Just a second. So you pushed her over?
Yes, to defend myself.
You pushed her over. All right, so this is your problem, sir. You said nothing happened that night. You said in your answer nothing happened that night.
I have a copy of the police report that I reported.
I'm going to look at it in a second. Now, you say here, I never assaulted Cecilia. We have plenty of arguments during the relationship, but I've never assaulted her. She has a tendency to blow things out of proportion. I have never put my hands on a woman in my life. Well, that's not true. You just told me you did.
As self-defense.
You didn't say that here. You said, I've never put my hands on a woman in my life.
Would that be considered assault in self-defense?
No. That's not what you said. Okay, now I'll see the police report. Okay, so what you did is you came home after you were drinking for the night. That's what you told the police, that you had a night of drinking and you had a fight. He wanted to know where you were. She said the argument became physical. The defendant here grabbed her and pinned her onto the bed while he laid on top of her, holding her arms down. Proceeded to take his right hand and bruised and cut her lips. She was dizzy but did not lose consciousness. It was not because of the alcohol she had previously consumed. Cecilia said she eventually left the room and went to sleep. Just a second. So after this incident, when he allegedly hit you, causing this injury to your lip, you went back to living with him?
Yes.
Yeah? I'm reading this thing, and I said, well, she said she was assaulted. She left. She went home, and she went to live with her parents. But you didn't. You went back to sleep, and then you stayed with him because this incident, the one that you just described to me, happened on September 10th. And you went to the police on October 24th.
Yeah.
Then there was an incident on October 19th. She said you had another argument, but he did not strike her because she threatened to leave if he did. Instead, he punched holes in the apartment. She decided to leave after that and no longer is living with him. Okay, now, later on in the month, after the 19th, because now I am not considering what happened on September 10th, because you went back to live with him. Between September 10th and October 19th, did you share a bed? That's a question.
Yes.
Every day?
No.
4 days a week? No. 5 days a week? You were living together until the 19th of October.
Yes.
Where did you live?
Well, we had couches as well as a bed, so we weren't always sleeping together.
That's not true.
You know, I don't believe you. Okay, good. So I'm not even considering the 10th of September. Later on, there was an incident where he says you assaulted him. You came to his house where he was living now. You were living at your parents' house, right?
Yes.
And you came to the house. What date was that?
It was like 2 or 3 days after the breakup.
Was the breakup in October?
Yes, Your Honor. It was October 12th.
October 12th. Got it. You tell me what happened on October 12th. Did you go to his house?
I can't remember.
She was living with me.
She was living with you?
Until that day, October 12th.
I moved out October 31st. I was still living with him on that incident that happened on October 12th. We broke up, and that's when he punched the... I have pictures right here when he punched.
I heard punching the hole in the wall. I'm not interested. He still lives there. He's going to have to fix the hole in the wall.
No, I'm saying that's why we broke up, because I told him if he put his hands on me, then... But he punched the TV instead.
Now we're talking about his allegation that you assaulted him.
I did not touch him.
That is false.
That's a counterclaim that you have. Then I have to figure out what to do with these dogs.
So I have pictures and I have messages where...
I want to know when it happened and where.
Let me show you.
No, I want you to tell me. When did it happen and where?
It was a day or two after I had left, which might have been October 14th or 15th. And she was upset because I had already picked up Fatty because she asked me to. She texted me, I want my stuff back. I want the dog back. And I told her, I was like, no, if you already filed the lawsuit against me, let's just go about it the legal way. I told her, do not show up at my house, which I clearly have messages where I state not to show up. And in those messages, she threatens to murder me, find me, and kill me. At that moment, I told her, if you do not leave, I will call the cops. And in that second, she lashed out, grabbed my neck, and scratched my whole neck and my shoulder. And that's...
What date was that?
So October 14th or 15th.
And then you went to the police on October 24th for the first time.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can I see your photographs, please? Did you report this to the police?
I called the police in the incident. That's why she attacked me.
Just a second. Did the police respond?
The police did respond. They did not want to take a report.
Kevin, would you show this to the plaintiff, please?
He pulled a gun out on me, and that's why I brought her as my witness, because she was there and saw everything that happened that night.
Cecilia Morrow claims her ex-boyfriend, Saeed Rodriguez, owes for an assault and personal property. Saeed is countersuing for the return of 2 corgis and says he was the one assaulted.
Now, did he pull a gun out before this happened? I want you to explain exactly how it happened.
The reason I went to his house is because I noticed on my credit card that he spent $600 on a PS5. He's 22, by the way.
What is a PS5?
A console for gaming with those kids play Fortnite, yeah.
Okay, so he spent money from your credit card?
Yes.
Okay, had you contacted him about it?
Yes,
I
have, yes.
Okay.
And he took my dog as well, and she's my ESA animal. I can't be separated from her.
That's not true.
She is my ESA animal.
She's what?
My ESA animal, emotional support animal. It's registered with the government. Do you want to see the...
I'm not interested.
Okay.
Do you work?
Yes, I do. I'm a realtor as well as a financial advisor.
Do you see a therapist regularly?
I need to.
Yep, that's not what I asked you. Do you see a therapist regularly?
No.
Who did you get to write the letter for you that indicated that this corgi that you left behind is an emotional support animal? That's a question. Madam, look at me. It had to be a doctor, correct?
Yes, it is.
It had to be a doctor.
Yes.
What's the name of the doctor?
I have
No. The answer is you don't know offhand the name of the doctor. Is that right?
Yes.
Does the doctor live in the area where you live?
No.
How many times did you personally visit this doctor?
Not once. It was registered through online.
The answer is never.
Yeah.
So you're trying to tell me that I should look at a certificate that some doctor gave you online that you needed a support animal when you are not in any psychiatric care and haven't been. The doctor never examined you, but for a fee, pay attention, for a fee, wrote you a letter so that you could make this an emotional support dog. Now I want you to tell me in what month?
May. And I have the registration if you want to take a look at it.
I don't want to take a look at it at all. It's nonsense. You know it's nonsense, and I know it's nonsense. Now, there are several reasons why you get these nonsense online from close the cover before you strike doctors that will attest to the fact that you need a therapy dog in order to survive. There are several reasons for it. You want to take it to work?
No.
What was the reason? There has to be a reason.
Yeah.
I'm really smart.
I know.
Really smart.
It was so we didn't have to pay the pet deposit, so when we got the apartment.
There you go. So it was a fraud.
No, but
Just a second. So it was a fraud. So you committed a fraud, so you didn't have to pay a pet deposit for your animals. When I asked you, you want to read me back the answer when I asked her, do you see a psychiatrist? And she said, no, but I need one. And you knew you needed one in May when you had to pay the pet deposit.
No, I need
You
two.
two people are really cute. Is that what she said?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, the plaintiff owns the dog. She owns the dog. She paid for the dog. It's registered in her name. The fact that you were a good caretaker, I can't help you with that. The dog looks as if it's in pretty good shape. Believe me, if the dog didn't look as if it was in pretty good shape, somehow I would find a way. But right now, the dog looks as if it's in pretty good shape. I'm directing the plaintiff, however, that in the event that she has to remove the dogs from her parents' house where she's living, that she's precluded from selling them or giving them away until she gives you an opportunity to take them. I'm also directing you, because I assume you live with your parents and I assume your father's going to be watching this, or I would tell him when I got home that the judge called you a moron.
I will.
You can tell him that.
I will.
And I suggest to you that if you want to own a pet, I've had pets all my life, you have to protect your pet from morons.
Yes.
Whether they be little children who are morons or adults who have nothing better to do than to make TikTok videos using somebody else as a fall person. Frightening. As far as the assaults are concerned, I find that you both assaulted each other on 2 different days. There's no question in my mind that you assaulted him, and there's no question in my mind that as a result of her pushing you, and you have a temper because I know that you broke some of the things in your apartment, that you did, in fact, do something in her mouth. It didn't remove her teeth, but clearly, whatever you did to her face caused her lip to hit her tooth, which caused it to have a bruise on it. Anything else that I have to consider?
Yes, all the furniture that I left at the apartment.
Did you have a moving company come and move stuff for you? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
I read the papers. You
Yes.
did. On what date did you have a moving company come?
It was November 1st.
When you hired the moving company, did you give them a list of things to move?
Yes.
And did they move the list of the things that you gave them to move?
Yes.
Correct? And they moved them.
Yes.
So that part of your case is dismissed. It's over. She's keeping the dogs. And we're done here. Case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
That's what happens when you get in narcissistic relationships. People manipulate you. I was with him since I was 15. I'm 19 now.
Honestly, I was pretty upset with the outcome of the dogs.
I haven't talked to him in months. This is the first time I've seen him in forever.
She kept coming back. I mean,
I don't like him. I don't want him ever.
done means done, man.
What's done is done.
I was so surprised when I found out that she was only 19. Not a real stable place in your life to be getting a dog, and let alone 2, when you're not settled. You know, I think that's so unfair for dog owners when they're not settled. And, you know, it's just unfortunate.
There's an immaturity.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying to me is there's an immaturity. Problem is when you're immature, you don't realize that it's a mistake because an immature person is making a mature judgment. What I actually found, I mean, it was stupid. It wasn't as if it did something horrendous to the dog, but frightened the dog by throwing this square of cheese at its eye.
Well, I've seen the trend, and it actually did start on babies, throwing slices of cheese on babies' heads in high chairs.
What is happening to the world?
Yeah.
What's happening
Too
if
much
somebody
time on
thinks
their
that
hands.
that's funny
Yeah.
to startle a baby or to startle a creature in order to make somebody else laugh?
Yeah.
You know,
the world we live in today.
If morons want to do that, let them stick a broomstick someplace and take a TikTok picture of it on themselves.
Yeah,
On themselves.
I'm with
Why
you.
choose some other living creature? I don't understand that.
I'm with you.
I would build more jails. You, sir, you had a big fight because you weren't paying rent.
She got crazy, punched me in the face, and I fell in the chair into the glass. She started picking up the glass and stabbing me with it.
That's not true.
He has pictures, bleeding,
I was trying to grab the chair.
before or after you stabbed him with the glass.
The chair actually collided with the mirror, and the mirror broke.
I don't believe a word of that.
This is Judy Justice. DeAndre Benton is suing his former roommate, Chauncey Rayford, for personal belongings, lost wages, and an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3119, Benton versus Rayford.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Benton, it is your claim that the defendant who rented a room in her home to you
Yes, ma'am.
assaulted you, disposed of your property,
Correct.
and because of all the turmoil, you missed time at work.
Yes, ma'am.
You want $7,500.
Yes.
That's what you're asking for. Defendant says that you assaulted her. She had lost wages. She had pain and suffering as a result of this assault, which I assume took place on the same day.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. How did you find the room in Miss Rayford's home?
It was on a roommate app, like Roomster, to be exact.
On what date did you find the ad?
June 15th,
And where was it located?
Atlanta, Georgia, 30311.
So that was in June. And you looked at the room?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the rent?
It was negotiated to be $750.
$750 a month.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work were you doing then?
I was working fast food at the moment.
When did you move in?
July 15th.
July 15th.
15th, yes, ma'am.
And how much rent did you pay for the month of July?
This full amount, $750. I paid $250 to hold the room and $509 for the remaining balance.
In the month of August, tell me what rent you paid her and when.
I did give her.
Look at me. Be very careful with me. I want you to be very careful with me. How much rent did you give her in the month of August?
I didn't give her anything.
How much rent did you give her in September?
She wasn't there.
How much rent did you pay anyone in September?
I paid her a portion of the rent.
What do you mean a portion of the rent? It was my understanding that you owned this home.
Yes,
No,
Your
she
Honor.
didn't
That
own
is
the home.
correct.
Just a second.
She didn't own the home. To my knowledge, she wasn't even supposed to be renting out the home to have rooms.
Just a second. I'm just asking you, you're now living in somebody's house. And you agreed to pay $750 a month rent. Is a yes.
Yes.
And you paid no rent
Well, that
for
was
the month of August.
That was because when I did come into the home on the 31st, I moved in on the 15th like I communicated to you. On the 30th, my belongings was outside the home. I had to sleep outside like an animal.
Okay. What about in September? You were still in the home in September.
Yeah, I was still in the home in September
She
going
was
through the
still
same
in?
issue.
Just a second. You were
it was-
still, you're not going to talk over me. You were still in the home in September. Not That's a yes.
Yes.
You were still in the home in September. And how much rent did you pay in September?
I paid her $500 in
Just a
September.
second. In September, you paid her $500.
Yes.
Okay. October.
Nothing was paid.
After that, you paid no rent.
No.
Okay. Where are you living now?
I live with a friend now.
That's a lie. That's a lie. We just checked.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I used
Well, just
to
a second.
before I moved.
Just a second. Stupid is not here, sir.
Pretty aware. of that.
Stupid is not here. So now you're a squatter in a place where you're paying no rent and you live with him?
No, ma'am. I have my own place.
Oh, good. Because he doesn't live with you. He's living in a place where he doesn't pay rent. He moved in and stopped paying. I'm not finished with you either. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Very good. So if you understand, you weren't living outside like an animal, and you've been living for August, September, October, November, December, January and February, 7 months in a place in which you pay no rent.
Well, can I ask a question? How am I supposed to pay rent when I had several eviction notices and she wasn't there to show up?
Then leave. Then leave.
I mean,
you're a squatter. You are a squatter.
She told me I didn't have to.
You're a squatter. Well, if she told you that you don't have to, then the two of you are in collusion here.
I'm not talking about that, ma'am.
Who told you didn't have to pay?
The judge, because I didn't say the judge didn't say I had to pay. The judge said I did not have to leave, that she didn't find a reason to eviction of me because she didn't show up and provide her evidence.
I'm just telling you, you're a squatter. You don't pay rent. Everybody else here pays a mortgage, pays a maintenance. You moved in and you became a squatter. And I don't care what some other nitwit said to you, you're a squatter. So you get zero for the rent, for your property. I'll get to the assault in a minute. I read your answer. When did you purchase the house?
June 3rd,
June of what?
2021.
What was your mortgage?
The first year, from June, when I moved in 2021, it was $1,575 a month.
For the mortgage?
Correct. June of 2022, it increased by $40 and went to $1,615.
In what month did you stop paying the mortgage?
September of 2023.
Why?
DeAndre Benton claims his former roommate, Chauncey Rayford, threw away his property and assaulted him. Chauncey is countersuing for property damage and says she was the one assaulted. Now,
in what month did you stop paying the mortgage?
Well, to be completely honest with you,
yeah, I don't want you to be dishonest with me. You have to be honest with me because I know everything.
Yes, ma'am. I got laid off. I was okay, just living off of savings for a few months. Things got hard.
Just a second, you got laid off from what job, where?
Carvana, and this was November of 2022.
All right, so you've already been laid off for a year, and you're telling me you paid your mortgage until September?
Yes, ma'am. I was doing anything I could from an app called InstaWork.
Okay, so then you stopped paying your mortgage in September?
Yes.
And when did they foreclose on your house?
October 23rd was the date that I was told that myself and DeAndre needed to be out of the house.
I just asked you a question. They foreclosed on the house in October?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I had to move back with my mother in the state of Missouri. I lost everything. My job, the home, my dog.
Okay, so now the bank owns the house?
Yes, correct.
And he's been squatting in the house since October?
Yes, he will not leave.
Now, I've listened to what you just said just about the ownership of the house and when she turned it back to the bank. You said in your brief questioning before that she didn't own the house. She was a renter.
You know, I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, and she knew that. I wasn't even aware of that.
Just a second. If she owns the house, you can be there.
She doesn't own the house.
She doesn't own it anymore.
She never did.
Well, show me proof of that. Okay, that I'd like to see. Were you renting with an option to buy?
Yes, ma'am, with the option.
I got it now. He's absolutely right. You were not the owner of the house. You were a renter, and you had an option to buy.
Correct. And I was going to do so.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You two people actually deserve each other. Because what you suggest in your papers is that you ran into hard times and you let the bank take the house. Well, you didn't let the bank do anything because you didn't own the house. You were a renter and you stopped paying rent. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
Right. So, as far as I'm concerned, you both deserve each other. I don't know who you're not paying rent to. Somebody owns this house. And they've been probably trying to get you out of the house for a very, very long time.
The person that owned the home came to the home and said she was already far behind before I even moved in. That's the whole reason why I can't.
Who cares? What are you doing in a place where you're not paying rent? You're not supposed to be there. You're a squatter.
Do I look like a squatter?
You are one. You live in a place that's not yours. You're not paying rent. You're a squatter.
Yeah, for people that don't try to pay rent. At least I was trying to pay the rent. Every
Listen,
other time I'm
I try to make a baby every once in a while, but I'm 81 years old. It doesn't happen. All right, I want to hear something about this assault that happened when you were both living in this place that belonged to somebody else, and neither one of you was paying rent.
She was paying.
Who are you?
I'm her witness.
Were you there when this assault
Yes,
took place?
I was.
Okay, then I'll hear you after I hear them. Now, what is the date of this alleged
October
assault?
10th.
October 10th.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were still living there, not paying rent as of September and October. She was still living there.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
So I came outside out of my room. She was already being aggressive about the non-paying rent. And I've already been trying to be communicative with her.
Not
I
true.
said, hey.
I don't want to hear you.
I'm not speaking, Your Honor.
Who is?
Me, I'm sorry.
Out.
Okay.
Then you're done.
This way.
That way. Out.
Lord.
Go ahead.
Basically,
Now, I don't want to hear basically. I want to hear, to the best of your recollection, on October 10th, 2023, you were both in the house. You were in your room.
she got crazy. Basically, long story short, she got crazy. I tried to come inside the house and sit in a chair. The lady pulled the chair from me. I have the pictures and everything of it. Pulled the chair from me. Punched
Which
me.
lady?
This one right here.
Pulled the chair out from under you, tried to sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
And?
Pulled the chair out from me, punched me in the face, and I fell in the chair into the glass. She started picking up the glass and stabbing me with it.
And?
And I had to call the ambulance. The police came. It took 45 minutes.
May I see the police report, please? Did you ever speak to the police, Miss Rayford?
That day?
That day?
No, ma'am. I ended up leaving because...
Okay, just a second. Don't tell me because. The police have memorialized what they saw on the 10th, and they saw him with multiple wounds on his body. Some were bandaged and some not. You were not in the house. This person, I assume, is your girlfriend.
Correct.
Okay. So the two of you were in the house. After this incident took place, whatever the incident was, the two of you left.
That's correct.
He called the police.
I'm not sure what he
Well,
did.
you didn't call the police.
No, I did not.
No. Now, so from you, I would like to see... When you left the house, ran out of the house with your girlfriend, I assume you went right to an emergency room or something as a result of the lacerations that you say you sustained as a result of this fight. So I'd like to see those records.
I did not go to seek emergency treatment because I didn't have any insurance. I just bandaged it up myself.
Well, where did you run to?
To go and get bandage.
And when did you come back to the house?
I did not. That was my last day.
So that was your last day. Okay.
That's a lie.
So now...
She did.
I would
come back
only
to the
return
house.
when he was not there to collect my things.
So you did...
leave.
Just a second. So you did go back. I have a feeling I was right.
He would not be there when I would return. I have text messages of me asking my neighbor to let me know when he's not there as well. I have photos.
I'm going to look at both your photos, and then you're going to tell me your version of what happened.
Yes.
Because there's no question that he was injured, because the police memorialized that. I assume he has photographs as well. Now, I want you to tell me your version of what happened.
I was working from home. He was already up that morning, and he was the one being loud. He was sitting at my workstation, and I kept asking him politely to move so that I could go ahead and start working. He refused to move. He told me he had a right to sit wherever he wanted to in the home. Now, mind you, he's never...
Just a second. Did you pull the chair out from under him?
DeAndre Benton has accused his former roommate, Chauncey Rayford, of throwing away his belongings and assaulting him. Chauncey is countersuing, claiming DeAndre damaged property and assaulted her.
Okay. Did you pull the chair out from under him?
No, he was not sitting at it at that time. I was trying to move myself. He had walked outside the front door, and as he did that, I was trying to grab the chair, and he ran towards it and sat in it. And that's when the chair actually collided with the mirror, and the mirror broke at that point.
And then?
And then he proceeded to pick up pieces of glass, and I have the photos of my injury right here.
That's a lie.
I don't want to hear you.
He also damaged my work equipment. I had just started that job July 17th. Lost my job on Friday, October 13th, because he damaged my computer. I have a police report that I filed because...
I'd like to see it.
When I did return to the home, after, stitching myself up.
You didn't stitch yourself up.
I did go and get bandages.
You didn't stitch yourself up.
Well, okay. The wrong verbiage.
Yeah.
This is what I submitted
Just
online.
a second. I asked you for your police report.
Yes.
Period.
Okay.
Show it to me.
It's right here. This is what I have filed online. After communicating with my job, they told me in order for them to...
This is on the 12th. You said this happened on the 9th.
It did happen on the 9th, Your Honor. And what I did was I was in communication with my employer to see what they felt was best because...
What does she do for a living?
She was a shift manager.
She still work?
Yes, she works.
Oh, why wasn't she paying rent?
We don't live together. She had her own place.
Interesting. Okay, you wanted to say something to me?
Yes, that's actually a lie. As far as me assaulting her, I never once touched this lady. I never once disrespected her. I never once raised a hand at her or tried to, like, physically harm her. She was very aggressive, very disrespectful.
That's not true.
Okay, can I see your photographs, please? Can I see her photographs, please?
Marvius was also injured. That's my arm and her toe.
These are the injuries that you're showing me?
The toe photo is Marvius, my partner, and the arm, that's me.
Don't buy the photos, madam.
I have the scar right here.
Yeah, and don't buy that photo. This photo was a result of this date.
No, it all happened the same day that we're referring to.
Why are you showing me a picture of her toe?
Because when the glass broke and it was flying, somehow her toe got cut.
That's not true.
That is what happened.
Just a second. What other evidence do you have to show me with regard to this injury that took place on that date?
That was mainly what I took. The police told me to take pictures of it because they already had her on file from a previous incident of putting her hands on me.
If she put her hands on you before, why didn't you
Not
move?
making any sense.
Shh. There's an indication here that there was listen to me.
True, but
if she
that's
put
the
her...
that's the only place that I could afford at the moment.
But you weren't paying anything. You weren't working. You weren't doing nothing.
I'm done. You're finished. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim's dismissed. You, sir, you had a big fight with her because you moved in and you weren't paying rent. You hadn't paid rent since July. So if she's annoyed with you, there's absolutely no basis for her to put her hands on anybody. But you got into a scuffle that day. Did you damage her computer?
No, sir, I didn't.
I believe that you didn't damage her computer.
I didn't.
Shh, listen to me. I believe that the computer may have gotten damaged during the course of this fight where you and your girlfriend were there, right? Just a second. You and your girlfriend were there. See, I have a big problem with you because I know that he's a squatter. But you led me to believe that you had to give this house back to the bank as a result of his not paying rent. That's what you led me to believe in your answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. And that was not true. When somebody tells me something that's not true, I find their testimony always a little suspect. Do you understand? He was injured. There's no question he was injured with shards of glass. Police saw the injury, and he has pictures bleeding on that date. That's a result of what happened that you did to him. And you may have been angry. Was your friend angry as well? Because you both ran off.
This is what happened, okay?
Sure, I'd like to hear you try to tell me what happened.
The laptop was not damaged due to the scuffle. It was he was already banging on it, and then he poured Pepsi on it. I had to.
Did he pour Pepsi on the computer before or after you stabbed him with the glass?
No, this is before.
I don't believe a word of that.
Ma'am, this is the truth. I literally walked outside so that I could get some help.
Yeah.
I had to call my girlfriend, and at that time,
you don't call your girlfriend, you call the police.
Every time that the police have been called, they have not helped me.
Your girlfriend's not going to help you. You're trying to talk over me. Your girlfriend's not going to help you.
I had no family in Atlanta.
On the day of the incident, the police were wondering, like, where was she so they can get...
Don't tell me what the police were wondering, sir. You haven't paid rent in a place for 7 months. Are you still working fast food?
Yeah, I'm working now.
Did you tell me initially when I asked you a question, and we can have Whitney read it back, when I asked you where you were living, you said you were living with a friend.
Yeah, because I
Just a second. You were living with a friend, but that's not true because when we tried to contact you, the contract address that you gave us was, that's how I knew you lived there and that you weren't telling me the truth. Do you understand?
Yeah, I said I recently moved from the...
No, you didn't say that.
I recently have moved from that location, from that home.
Goodbye. Your case is dismissed. So's yours. Goodbye. You deserve each other.
This court is adjourned.
I wasn't squatting.
He only paid to move in, and I didn't get anything after that month of July.
Well, how am I supposed to pay rent if I was told I could be there?
Because that's what Gen Z babies do.
Squatters tend to have more rights than the landlords, it seems, these days. I mean, he moved in, he paid one payment to move in and hold the spot, and never paid again after that. And like you said, has been there for 7 months. She was not honest about, you know, in the papers it was a little bit unclear, or actually it was very clear, just inaccurate, that the reason that she had to leave this place was solely due to him not paying rent. She made it seem like she had to give it over to the bank due to some lack of payment.
Because she lost her job and...
Exactly. So a lot about the lost job, a lot about all of this. But, I mean, I just wonder who's paying utilities on the house now. He's been living there for 7 months. It's owned by the bank now, I believe.
I think it's owned by the bank.
And I don't think they're paying for his water and heating. So I wonder
somebody's
what's going
paying
on.
for them.
Someone.
Case 3128, Armstrong versus Rader. All parties, please come forward.
Cherie Armstrong is suing 18-year-old horse trainer Raven Rada for the return of a horse.
You folks are all interested in horses.
Yes.
You have several. How many?
Approximately 30. It changes during foaling season because some of them are born and some of them go to new homes.
What do you use them for?
We raise them and show them. So the stallions are often bred, and then we show the babies and the brood mares along with the stallions, and then sell the babies off to prospective show horse homes.
And how long have you been doing this?
My family has been doing it since I was 8 years old. I personally am doing it since I was about 14. So I'm 30 now, so it's been quite a while.
Okay. What about you? What's your interest in horses?
My interest in horses is a lot based on Mustangs, which I go and adopt Mustangs each year, train them, and sell them during the shows over the summer.
Okay. So this is what the case is about. Miss Armstrong, you sold in October of last year 2 horses to the defendant. A 3-month-old,
yes,
which you sold to her for $3,000.
Yes.
And a yearling, which I assume is a year old.
Yes, Your Honor.
For $1,000. And it is your claim that you weren't fully paid for the horses. She didn't pay you anything and then at some point sent you $275, she says. But that you felt as if she was neglecting them, and you went to the place where she was keeping the horses and took back the 3-month-old. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did you take the baby back?
That would be October 23rd.
And when had you made the sale?
That was October 3rd.
So 20 days later, you took the baby back?
Yes, Your Honor. There were a cumulative amount of events. When she took the horses, she was supposed to make a down payment that day. We had the horses loaded in the trailer, and I said, okay, how much are you putting down today? And she said, well, I won't have anything until Friday, and this was a Wednesday. And so I said, okay, well, I'm not normally comfortable with letting people take anything off property before it's paid in full, but I've known these guys for well over a decade, and so I thought it would be okay. The horses were loaded, and she said, oh, my farrier is gonna meet me at home to do their feet, because they were a little bit overdue, and they kind of needed done, and I was like, well, they're in the trailer, they're gonna get their feet done. I guess I can wait for a payment until Friday. Friday didn't come yet because Thursday I got a message that she had put those 3 new horses in a herd of established Mustangs who attacked the yearling, trampled her, and split her leg open.
Just a second.
Yes.
So far, is that correct?
No.
Cherie Armstrong claims 18-year-old horse trainer Raven Rada refuses to return her horse. Raven is countersuing, claiming Cherie wrongfully retrieved one of her horses.
Well, tell me how the yearling got trampled. You don't seem to deny that that happened.
No, she did get trampled.
Okay. No. So, and she got trampled by what?
A quarter horse. And
that was on your property?
Yes.
Your Honor, it's not quite trampled.
Just a second.
Sorry.
And it was bad enough, Miss Rada, that you called the plaintiff?
Yes.
What did you say to her when you called her?
That the quarter horse was able to roll the paint horse and created an injury.
Did you tell her how the horse was injured? What did you tell her about the injury?
That the injury was bad enough where it was bleeding and it would need a vet.
Why did you call her?
Because in her contract, she said that she would like to know when a horse gets injured, when one of the horses would get injured.
Do you have a contract?
Yes, I do have.
I'd like to take a look at it. And is it a contract that you signed?
That we both signed.
Good. I'd like to see it.
I'm trying to find it, sir. Here you go.
Your Honor.
Just wait.
Well, I don't understand the bill of sale. Actually, I understand that it's a nice contract and that it was for $4,000. Payments scheduled every what?
It was supposed to be a time frame, but when she came to get the horses, she said, well, I'm not sure on the time frame yet. I can let you know Friday when I give you the money.
Okay, buyer will provide the seller with a down payment of $0.
Yep, because I filled it out with her on Wednesday when she picked them up.
So you filled this out on the 3rd?
Yes.
Well, you were supposed to make your first payment on Friday. What happened?
The vet. When we had the vet come out.
So what?
I went to go save it so I could pay her back for paying the vet bill, and I was never able to do that.
Well, then you defaulted on the contract. When did you make this first alleged payment of $275?
It was October 23rd when she went and got the colt.
Did you give her a check or
a
okay.
check?
May I see it?
Yes.
No, this says it's for the vet bill. Just a minute. Did she pay the vet bill for your horse?
Yes.
This isn't payment for any horse. It says clearly vet bill.
We agreed upon at the time of that payment that it would go towards the horse.
Why? Your contract specifically says it does not. And it specifically says vet bill on it. That's what it says. Okay, so let me try to put this in perspective now. Now you retrieved the baby horse.
So when...
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
You went and got the baby horse because you felt as if there was either trouble with the horses or she hadn't paid for them. Either way, she hadn't paid for them. That's the easiest thing that I have to address because she hadn't paid for anything.
Yes.
Now, it's 5 months later. She took back the baby and you kept the yearling. That's a yes or a no, not a sad look. And did you pay for the yearling?
No.
Well, then it's not your horse, right?
Yes.
Then she gets it back. That's what you want, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not 100% sure that the...
Just a minute. You don't have to go into a whole thing. She bought horses. She didn't pay for the horses. She gets them back. That's easy.
Yes.
Right? Okay, fine. How long will it take you to pick up the horse?
We could come as soon as we get home.
So within 5 days?
Yes, Your Honor.
On 24 hours' notice. You want to say something?
I do.
Sure. I assume you're her father.
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay.
I did place a lien on the horse because I have at least $750 into this horse.
Somebody allowed you to file a lien on the horse?
You may do that in Idaho, ma'am.
What?
Ma'am, I contacted the brand inspector myself, and there cannot be a lien placed on the horse unless I have been served a copy of that lien and the brand inspector has been served a copy on that lien, and there is nothing on record that has the last name Rada or Armstrong anywhere near it.
She's picking up the horse within 5 days.
Okay,
I
Your
don't
Honor.
care if you have money in it for vet bills, feed, read the contract. Did you read the contract?
Yes,
Did you
Your
read
Honor.
the contract? All right, the contract is
never signed it.
specifically clear that once the horse leaves her property, the buyer is responsible for all vets, feed, care, shoes, whatever it is. That was her responsibility. She didn't pay for the horse. And if she came to her daddy and said, could you help me pay for these expenses? Well, she's 18 years old.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sue her.
Okay, Your Honor.
Within 5 days, on 24 hours' notice, the plaintiff is picking up the yearling. Now, there is sort of a ridiculous counterclaim. You want $3,000 for the return of the baby. You really don't want that. You know, there's no legal basis for you to have that. You didn't pay for it.
Yeah, sure.
And you were supposed to pay for it. Okay, you have my order. The order is that within 5 days you pick up the yearling. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You want the return of the baby. You didn't pay for the baby. The baby stays where it is. Thank you very much. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
She had messaged me saying, the little filly needs to go to the vet. My horse rolled her, got jealous, attacked and rolled her.
She managed to roll it because they were sitting there playing around.
I think that she loves her animals very much. I just think she's a little bit underinformed on some of the basics with introducing new horses and handling some emergency medical care.
Probably take more caution and separate them a little bit more.
I didn't get the feeling, Sarah, that that young girl was devastated by the decision. I don't know why.
Yeah, I feel like you made it pretty cut and dry. We didn't get into any of the nitty-gritty about how the horse came versus how it left. It was a very simple contractual, you owed the money, you didn't pay, the horse goes back, period. And so I think maybe that's what removed the emotion
from it.
Out of it. It's just she had no excuse. She knew she didn't pay for it, but I think it was pretty cut and dry at the end of the day. You bought a horse, but didn't buy it.
Right,
So
didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
For rent, a security deposit, and stolen property.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2066, Michelonius versus Robertson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robertson, how long had you been living in your apartment prior to renting a room to the plaintiff?
I believe it was about 3 years.
You had been living there by yourself?
No, I had roommates previously.
When did the plaintiff move in?
I believe that it was January 1st of 2017.
2017?
It may have been 2018. It was the first, I forget.
It was 2018.
That's correct.
How long did he live there with you?
He lived there with me until September of 2021.
So far, that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So now let me understand this lawsuit. Mr. Robertson lived in his apartment for 3 years. You answered an ad for a room. You lived with him in his home as a tenant from January 2018 until September 2021.
Correct.
At that time, there was a dispute. We will get into that in a moment. There was a dispute. During part of that time, Mr. Michelonius, you did not pay rent. Is that correct? During COVID?
That's correct.
For what period of time did you not pay rent?
Well, I had...
Give me how many months you did not pay rent?
There was...
You don't have to think out loud. How many months between January of 2018 and September 2021 did you not pay rent? Give me a number. That's a number.
4 months. Some months I paid partial rent. But there were 4 months that I did not pay any rent.
4 months, no rent. And how many months did you pay partial rent?
I believe that would have been 4 or 3.
So for 7 months, you did not pay your rent. Paying partial rent is not rent. Now, my question to you, Mr. Robertson, is this is an apartment that you rent.
Yes.
Or rented.
Mm-hmm.
From January 2018 until September 2021, was your rent current?
My portion of the rent was current.
What do you mean your portion?
My portion that I was responsible for.
No, it's your apartment. You're responsible for the whole thing, Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Okay? You're responsible for the whole rent. And if what you chose to do was to say to your landlord, listen, I have a roommate, I'm just paying my portion of the rent, my roommate isn't paying his,
right,
then your rent wasn't paid.
Yes.
And I assume that your rent wasn't paid for the same period of time that he didn't pay you his portion of the rent.
Yes.
Was it for any period of time greater than that? Greater than the 4 months or the 7 months that he didn't pay rent?
I went through my bank statements, and they went back until, I believe, July of 2020, and that's as far back as my bank app lets me go.
Okay.
There were more months than that I received partial or no rent payments for.
From him?
From him.
I'm asking you about your landlord. If you didn't pay your landlord, you telling me your landlord didn't file an eviction against you?
There were several months that he did pay his full rent, and so that would have meant that the entire rent for that period.
Well, I know, but if the rent was not paid, did your landlord ever serve you an eviction notice?
No, there was an eviction moratorium in Alameda County at that point for unpaid rents due to COVID.
Gotcha. So that would it be a fair statement that you both took advantage of that? He took advantage of it, and so did you.
I wouldn't say that it was me trying to take advantage. I would just say it was my inability to cover the entire rent.
Your portion as well as his?
My portion was always covered.
Your portion was covered?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Michelonius, when did you move from month and year?
It was September of 2021.
And when did you leave there?
I believe it was the 3rd or 4th week of August of 2021.
So you both left the place at about the same time?
I left involuntarily, but yes.
Well, you left involuntarily, because that's what this case is about. Okay, so now I have the structure of it. Do you understand the structure of it?
I understand.
You understand the structure of it? I just want to make sure that people out there watching understand the structure of it. So you were the rentor, and you had an argument. It resulted in a protective order for somehow some genius put him out of his own apartment because of these protective. You weren't in the hospital for anything, were you, as a result of an assault? No.
No.
You have no medical records there of being treated for any injury.
It was a harassment.
Just a minute. Do you know my husband harasses me every day? Every day. I couldn't think of evicting him. I mean, you do other things. So the answer is, you were never treated for any illness. You were never treated for anxiety at a hospital as a result of this harassment. As a result of your allegations, let us say of harassment, Mr. Robertson was ejected from his own home, from which you had not been paying rent. Your portion that you were supposed to pay contractually with him for months because of COVID. Am I getting this story right? So far, I'm not finished yet, but so far, is there anything that I said was wrong?
I think that's pretty close. I mean,
okay, so that's pretty close. And now what you are seeking here is, should I say basically, and I hate that word, basically, but it's appropriate in this case. So all of those haters out there, she used basically, I don't care. It's appropriate here.
Mark Michelonis claims his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, owes for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property. Christopher is countersuing, claiming Mark owes him for rent.
Now, what you're claiming in your lawsuit is that after a review of the copy of the underlying lease, you found that you were paying the vast majority of the rent.
Correct.
And so you want a return of that money.
That's correct.
Under what theory in the law?
Well, basically that he defrauded.
No, now you can't use a basically.
Okay.
I want to know what theory is there in the law that says if I own a building and I lease to someone the whole building for $10,000, and then I find somebody who is prepared to pay me, and I have the first 2 floors of the building. 3rd floor is vacant. I find somebody who's willing to pay me $9,000 a month just for the top floor. That makes me a good business person. But unless there is something that prohibits him from doing that...
There is, Your Honor.
Show me.
There's a clause in the lease.
No, just show me.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer. I can read a lease.
So the sublease that I agreed to with him incorporates the entirety of this master
Just a second.
lease.
I'd just like to see it, please, sir. I'd just like to see it. I assume you've highlighted what you want me to read.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're pointing to is that the landlord, his landlord, was not advised that you were subletting.
No.
Well, that's why signed by every tenant.
So that was one of the things, because if you look at the second lease, the one that was altered by Christopher to remove those areas so I wouldn't be aware, or I wouldn't be able to enforce them, was because he moved his boyfriend in without getting my consent. And so it says in there that he needs written consent. I understand that that doesn't apply to me, but he thought it did. And so he used whiteout on the other lease that I gave to you to obfuscate those terms.
I don't know how to put this to you, sir, other than to say, let me backtrack. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a web developer.
You work for yourself or for a company?
I do. I'm an independent contractor.
How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Prior to that, what were you doing?
I was a system administrator.
For whom?
For a small company in San Francisco.
How long did you work for them?
6 years.
So for 2 years, you were an independent web developer, and you're still an independent web developer.
Correct.
And that's how you support yourself.
Right.
So you work out of your home.
Right.
And you've been working out of your home, you said, the last 2 years since 2020. This is 2022 or 19.
Right.
What do you mean, right?
So it would have been.
When you moved in 2018, were you an independent contractor?
No, I was going to school.
You were going to school?
Right.
For what?
I went to.
Just a second, for what?
For web technologies. It was a program for web development technology.
Did you go in person?
Yes. It was an intensive.
For how long?
It was 3 months. It was 8 hours a day.
Okay. Okay, so you went to school for 3 months.
Right.
During what period of time?
January 2018 to end of March 2018.
Okay, and at that time you were living with the plaintiff?
Correct.
Okay, so you needed a room for that 3-month period. And after that time, you supported yourself by being your own boss, by developing websites.
It took me a while to find a job, but yes.
What do you mean it took you time to find a job?
The interview process to get work, I was interviewing, it was very hard to break into that industry.
And so what did you do?
So I started taking on independent work.
So you never actually got a job outside of the independent work that you did?
That's correct.
So you support yourself by doing web development out of your home?
Yes.
So you used the home that you were living in, that room that you were renting, for not only your personal business, but you operated a place of business out of your residence.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Yes.
Yes. I just want you to see how ridiculous you are. You want $10,000 because you overpaid what you consider your fair share of the rent. That's not going to happen. You come here, you didn't pay rent for at least 7 months because of COVID. You were working according to you. You were a web developer, still are. It's 2022 because you have no other job other than being a web developer. You stopped paying rent. You moved out after he did, correct?
Well,
did you pay?
I'd like to correct
in the
something.
month that you lived there, when you had put him out of his house because
they were moving out. I did not put him out of the house.
I thought that was a protective order.
It was, but they were, and I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving, and so.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you. You were renting a place, although you weren't paying rent from him, and the underlying landlord wasn't getting his money, all of his money, because he wasn't getting your money. And what's coming to me is that somebody got stiffed with rent, and that would be the landlord who rented you your place where you were living, because you didn't pay him the whole thing. You didn't pay him the whole thing. And now you want me, you're asking me, to award you $10,000 for overpayment of rent.
Your Honor, could I clarify something? The times when I didn't pay rent, I was not working. It was during COVID, so the first couple months of the COVID lockdown, I lost all of my contracts, so I didn't have any money. And so I was using there was a COVID process where you could, basically say that,
There's no basically in there, only I used it once.
So I did not have the money to pay rent. I was not just making money and not paying rent. I would not do that. I was broke. All of my contracts dried up because nobody had any money. I was working for small
So what are you
companies.
suing him for now? The government was very good to you. This is a very interesting America. It's a rent forgiveness, it's a rent moratorium. That doesn't mean the state where you live. What state do you live in?
California.
California. That doesn't mean the owner of this premises was given some sort of a break that they didn't have to pay for utilities, taxes, mortgage on the building, because it's used as a business. As far as I know, there wasn't a moratorium on that, but there was a moratorium on two seemingly able-bodied people to say to the landlord, I can't pay my rent. To add insult to injury, you think that I'm going to give you $10,000 because he charged you more than whatever the 3rd or 40% of your occupancy of the apartment, and he shouldn't have? That's not going to happen, sir. So forget it.
Mark Michelonis has accused his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, of overcharging for rent and keeping his property. Christopher is countersuing Mark for unpaid rent.
Now, you gave him a security deposit. That is part of your lawsuit.
Correct.
So I want you to forget the overpayment of rent because it is ridiculous.
Okay.
So now let's go to the security deposit, part of your complaint. Did he give you a security deposit?
He did, Your Honor.
Now, he didn't pay rent because of this moratorium
Yes.
on rent. Did you get your security deposit back from the landlord?
I did.
How much?
I believe I got the total amount for the entire apartment, which was approximately $2,000.
And how much did Mr. Michelonis give you as a security deposit?
He gave me $1,250 for the security deposit plus a $300 pet deposit.
Sometimes the pet deposit is refundable. Did you get the pet deposit back?
I don't recall specifically if I got that back from the landlord.
But you did get back your entire security deposit, which included his $1,250.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Let's hold that in abeyance for a moment, because now I'm going to go to your counterclaim.
Sure.
I think that's all I have to deal with. Oh, and property taken without permission. Did you get that property back? There was some...
I did not.
What property was it?
There was a stone Buddha carving. There was some dishes, some glasses.
Oh, give me a break. Do you have a stone Buddha carving?
I have the stone Buddha carving. I have a small statuette, a rooster that is his, and a small metal.
Great. Would you pack those up?
Yes.
Do you live close to each other?
I haven't been able to because of our mutual restraining orders.
Fine. Do you know where your local precinct is?
Yes.
Where is it located?
I believe that the closest one would be downtown for me, downtown Oakland.
Okay. You'll find out before you leave today. In 5 days, drop it off at the local precinct.
Absolutely.
Let him know when, and he can go pick up his Buddha.
Yes, I don't want bad in my home.
Terrific. Now, money owed for COVID debt is your counterclaim.
Yes.
Which is what?
It is a total of $55.35, I believe.
For what?
That is the unpaid rent.
But you didn't pay his rent, you just told me.
Right, and so this is the outstanding balance of the rent that he never paid that I'm responsible for as the master tenant.
Oh, no, you just told me that you got your security deposit back. If you got your security deposit back, sir, that means that the landlord is finished with you.
According to the law...
Not according to the law. If you got your security deposit back, the entire security deposit, the landlord has written it off, because otherwise he would have taken your security deposit if you owed him or her money. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very simple.
I understand what you're saying.
It's very simple.
I wish I could explain that to them in your...
Well...
in your manner.
I want to tell you something. I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
So
only in the land of Oz does that happen.
They might live there.
No, they might live there, but I don't live there. Okay. You owe him $1,250 for security deposit. This case is over. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to bring...
Bye.
Well, I was a little upset.
He's being a drama queen.
The clause in the lease was to prevent people from basically taking advantage of the fact that they've been living in a place for a long time and gouging rent for new tenants.
He said I was price gouging him because he was enough to pay more rent than he might have if he had done some more research.
They were trying to make it equal, and every place that I've lived in, there was always an equitable share of the rent. Like, no one was ever gouging anybody, so I felt that I was unjustly charged.
Well, I can't say it wasn't very satisfying to hear the judge call his claims ridiculous to his face.
Basically, he was leaving the front door open, making it so my dog could escape easily. He was filling the house up with smoke.
We both burned sage.
He was basically trying to get me riled up. He wanted me to move.
While I am disappointed that I won't be able to recover some of his COVID debt.
Basically, the moment that he was, it was inconvenient for me to be there, he tried to make my life miserable.
I'm glad that I will never have to see him again, and this is done.
I'm not living with roommates ever again. I've got my dog, and we're cool.
He was a nightmare, and I never have to see him.
Far be it from me to second guess another judge, but it would seem to me sort of outrageous unless there was some sort of a physical altercation. Why anyone, because he clearly was excluded from his house. He left first, and he said, involuntarily. Would anybody exclude
the original tenant? When I read the papers, I thought the same thing. I thought that was outrageous, that they would throw out the primary leaseholder on a lease in favor of his subtenant, which may or may not have been legal to begin with.
I can understand it if there was something more serious, but harassment, I just don't understand it. But mine is not to wonder why. Mine is but to do what I do. And I don't think that when you come into a court where you have at least participated marginally in a giveaway, to then come in and say, you know what, there's a technical thing. He wasn't supposed to charge me this much rent because I didn't occupy this much of the apartment, whatever. Ridiculous when you didn't pay rent for 7 months anyway. It made my job a lot easier.
Pajaro is suing his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, for a plane ticket, credit card charges, and a stolen cat.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2016, Pajaro versus Strackman.
Mr. Perari, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for a brief period of time, owes you money for a plane ticket and for her unauthorized use of your credit card.
That's correct.
I don't know what the defense is to this, except that I think her defense is that you were just stupid and she took advantage of you. No. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually trying to figure it out. But you met the defendant, according to you, on an online dating app and started a conversation with her on what date?
So we met in March 2020 on a dating app for LGBTQ people. We started dating in March 2020. 4 months later, she moved in with me, which I know is not smart, but...
July?
Yes, in July 2020.
And where had she been living?
She had been living in Florida.
And where do you live?
I live in Seattle, Washington.
Did you send her money for a plane ticket? How did she get to you?
She had money herself at that time to cover the cost of moving.
So she moved and it was her own funds that she used to move?
Yeah, the swindling hadn't started yet.
You must have had some substantial What is this? What is this look? I don't know what this look is.
Oh, it's just the verbiage.
Okay, well, let me go back and let me start with you, okay? Because there's only one theatrical person here in this room, and that's me. Do you understand?
I do.
Yes. I get paid the big bucks to be theatrical. Okay, so Miss Strackman, you lived in Miami. He lived in Seattle, Washington. You decided to move in with him. What kind of work were you doing in Seattle?
I was a video editor, but when COVID happened, everyone kind of lost their jobs.
And what arrangements did you make with him when you were going to move in with him?
He told me that if I gave up my life in Florida, I had a very lovely apartment, lots of friends.
You had a lovely apartment, you had nice
gave up
friends,
everything
but
to go
no
and
job.
move to Seattle.
Okay, so he said, move to Seattle and I'll take care of you.
Yes.
That's what you say in here.
Yes.
And that was in July of 2020.
Yes.
Is that about what you said to her?
No. The reason she moved in, again, it was 4 months after we started dating, which normally...
Had you seen her during those 4 months?
We had Zoom.
That's either yes or no.
No.
No, you had no physical contact with her?
No.
Okay.
But because we were in lockdown and we were both pretty isolated, it made sense. Her lease was ending and things moved really fast between us, so we decided to try it together. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any discussion about what she was going to do once she got to Seattle?
Yeah. So as she stated, she was a freelance video editor, and she said she was going to potentially have more work in Seattle and continue to try and find gigs for that or find other employment, drive for Uber Eats.
But she came to you and she wasn't working?
She wasn't working, no.
Okay. And the relationship with her ended in what month?
It ended in February 2021.
So it was a relatively short live-in period, maybe 6-7 months.
Right, because of her.
Did she ever work when she was with you?
Not that I
Just a second, I'm going to ask her. Did you ever have full-time gainful employment during the time that you lived with the plaintiff?
I did not. I was not supposed to.
I didn't ask you. I don't ask to be editorialized. I asked you, did you ever work full-time?
No.
Did you ever work part-time?
No.
Okay. Then there came a time, according to what I read in both of your papers, that he purchased a plane ticket for you to go back to Miami. That would be a yes.
That is correct. You're right.
And what month was that?
That was in February of 2021.
And tell me, in your own words, what you told him as to why you wanted to go to Miami, because he wasn't going with you.
He was not going with me.
Tell me what you told him as to why you needed to go to Miami.
I told him that I needed to visit my sister.
And does your sister live in Miami?
Yes.
Had you been there to visit her before?
I had, yeah.
While you were living with him?
No. I didn't travel.
So this was the first time you wanted to go and visit your sister?
Yes.
Okay, was there any specific reason that you gave him as to why you wanted to go visit your sister?
She was sick and I wanted to be there.
But did you tell him what she was sick with?
Yeah, it was COVID.
Does she live alone?
At the time, yes.
You know, it's not going to be easy. It's going to get harder. Now, the plaintiff seems like a relatively intelligent human being. Hands off hips. If somebody I lived with say, I want to go and see, unless it was a young child, maybe in a school or something that lived alone in an attic dormer, I want to go see my sister who's sick with COVID, and you don't have COVID, and this is 2021, I would say, well, why would you do that and put yourself at risk and then come back and put me at risk? Didn't you have that conversation?
We didn't, Your Honor, no. It just didn't come up.
I want to go take care of my sister because she has COVID? What about isolation? Did you ever hear about that?
I did hear about that. I spent a lot
Well,
of
what do you
time in
think that means?
isolation means not traveling.
No, isolation means you're not supposed to be around other people if you test positive for COVID. If you're sick, stay at home. You don't travel cross country to be with somebody who's sick. But it doesn't make any difference, actually, because you should have picked up on that or whatever, because you didn't really want this ticket, according to what I read, Miss Strackman, to go and visit your sick sister. You needed this ticket because you had started to become involved with a boyfriend who was in jail in Florida.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so that's a yes, which you didn't tell him. So you took the money from him for, let's just start with the ticket, under false pretenses.
I did, but I...
Just a second. That's all. I did. Not a but. Not a little. I did take the money from him under false pretenses when you went to Florida. He said you needed it for one thing, and in fact, you didn't. That's under false pretenses. How much was the ticket?
The ticket was for $427.40.
Okay. And when you went to Florida, Miss Strackman, and you stayed in a hotel, motel, what did you stay in?
I stayed in a hotel.
And whose charge account did you use for the hotel?
Yenny had given me a credit card.
That's not what I asked you. That's a name. Whose credit card did you use when you stayed at the hotel?
The plaintiff, Yenny's.
Mm-hmm. And that was by pre-arrangement with him that you were going to stay in a hotel rather than with your sister?
No, but I had the credit card for...
Now, that's not what I mean. Let's go back. You had the credit card. I'm assuming for the purpose of this question that what you say, and I don't know if it's true, but assuming for this question that what you say in your answer is accurate, that he gave you a credit card to use for your necessaries and expenses for emergencies.
Yes.
Yes. You would agree that going to visit secretly another boyfriend in Miami is not a necessity.
You would agree that Yenny cheating on me was not a necessity.
No. But did you use his credit card?
I did, and I believe that human love and kindness.
Okay, just a second. That's it. Do I look like I need help from you? If you had given him, Miss Strackman, a credit card, I want you to try to take everything else from out of your mind. If you had given him your credit card and said, I'm giving this to you because I said to you I would take care of you when we lived together if you didn't have a job. Let's say I believe that. I'm not so sure, but let's say I believe that. You would agree that going to see another boyfriend across the country was not a necessity for him. Or for me, or for Whitney,
for you, no,
or for Sarah.
For me, I'm a woman with needs. I need dopamine, I need love, I need connection, and I wasn't getting that from Yenny. So it was a necessity that I went to go visit another man. Yenny had other girls as well on the side.
But you didn't, just a second, Miss Strackman, you didn't pay for the other girls. You didn't pay for his other girls.
I paid emotionally.
Oh, you said, what an idiot.
His ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, owes for the cost of a plane ticket, credit card charges, and stealing his cat. Gigi says they were all necessary expenses for her.
Now, you should feel so lucky that you got off so cheap.
I think you should assume everything that comes out of her mouth.
No. Yeah.
Because if I had, I wouldn't be here.
I get who I'm dealing with,
Yes.
sir. $427 for the flight ticket. How much was the credit card?
The credit card, also there's an incident with my cat as well, which
Just a second.
I'll address later.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's your least strong suit, but it sort of tells me again who I'm dealing with. Okay. How much did she use on the credit card in Miami?
Okay.
So only in Miami.
Right. In Miami, she spent $1,000 on...
Now, just a second. Is that a sheet from your credit card company?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Easier.
Would you like me to add the $427 for the flight ticket?
Yeah. Let's separate the two for me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Giving you start, just show me where the bills are.
So those are two separate credit card statements because she used it in 2 separate months. One of those is when she initially started using it, which was...
I don't care when she initially started. Let's understand.
Yeah.
She got your credit card.
Yes.
I only want to see the charges from Miami.
Okay. It's the one that says bail bonds, the bigger charge, which was... Okay.
How much?
That was for $1,000, but overall it was...
No, $1,000. We're going to do it this way. $1,000 bail bonds.
Yes.
Okay, next.
And then she spent $262.50 at a hotel for both of them.
$250 for a hotel.
And then she spent $105 on a fancy dinner for her and her lover.
And her what?
And her lover.
Okay, 150?
150 is not fancy. That's the kind of person you're dealing with.
150. I don't think there's a question before you, madam. 10, 4, $1,400 there. Is that close?
Including the 1,000?
Including the 1,000, but then not including the 425, so it would be 1,827.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's get to the final issue. So that takes care of your plane ticket and the credit card while she was in Miami. Now let's talk about the cat. Ms. Strackman, you moved in with the plaintiff July of 20.
Yes.
And when you moved in with the plaintiff, did he have a cat?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And what was that cat's name?
That cat's name was Momo.
And you lived with him a total of approximately 6 months.
Yes, Your Honor. And during that time, the cat...
No, I didn't ask you any questions. There's no question before you. There's no question before you. I have dates. You moved in, you lived with him for 6 months. When you moved in, the cat was there. And if you recall, in what month and year had you gotten the cat?
I got Momo right before she moved in with me as an emotional support animal, which is legally protected.
When you say right before she moved in with you, give me the month.
It was.
And where did you get the cat from?
June 2020. I adopted her from a shelter.
So you didn't have the cat long?
No.
When she moved in?
No.
And then the two of you had the cat?
Yes.
Okay,
but
great.
The cat was
and then when she, just a second, then when she left in February of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are now in August of 2022, and you recently filed this case with regard to your cat.
Right. I didn't know where she was.
Just a second.
Disappeared.
I don't care.
Okay.
You recently filed this case with regard to the cat. Did you make a police report when she left with the cat?
I don't.
The answer is either yes or no.
I don't like involving the police, so no. I didn't want to ruin her life.
Oh, well, I want to tell you something. I have a small 4-pound dog at home. I love that creature more than anything in the world, except my grandchildren, my husband, and my children. Hope there are enough life rafts for everybody, including the dog.
I did try to hire a private investigator in Florida, but I didn't know where she was.
Okay, you didn't report it to the police, and I do have a problem with that. Now, Ms. Strackman, you knew when you moved into him he had this cat that he had adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me what led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat?
Because that cat had become severely bonded to me. Yenny was neglecting both of us, both of the women in his life he chose to neglect.
Because I was working and
No, just a second. Don't.
Sorry, I paid for everything.
And so the cat.
So he was neglecting the cat and you, so you decided maybe half a neglect, he could be one whole person.
Exactly. Me and her are just getting out of here and gonna go start a new life together. I spent day and night with that cat. That cat was extremely bonded to me. She would be devastated without me.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story.
It's not. No, it's absolutely devastating. I am completely torn up about it. Unfortunately, my boyfriend's dog was not accustomed to cats and mistook her for a toy, and she did not survive that.
What kind of a dog does your boyfriend have?
We don't know the breed. I've never done the genetic testing.
Do you have a picture of the dog?
I do not. I didn't bring any evidence. I was hoping you just used
brought your smile. Okay.
She's not with her boyfriend.
She said, I didn't ask you a question. There's no question before you.
Love transcends bars, Annie.
Okay, 1827, $1,000 for taking his cat, and because you're a fool. 7, 2, 8, 2827, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
First of all, I'm glad, and I think justice was served. I'm not for Momo, but for the other scams that Jacqueline pulled.
Then I need dopamine, I need oxytocin, I need love, I need care.
Well, credit card fraud.
And Yenny said that they were going to be the person who was going to give that to me.
Deception, played with my heart.
And then didn't, so I had to find it elsewhere.
It was incredibly, this was Momo.
I did not have the cat killed. I was very attached to Momo. That was my cat as well.
It was incredibly hard to deal with. I was also alone when I had to process that news, so.
I did not set a hitman out on the cat. That's a lot to say.
She saw me as a sugar daddy, and she saw herself as a wannabe Anna Nicole Smith. Unfortunately, neither of us are those things.
Could I plead the fifth on finding another sugar daddy?
Yet another lesson we learned about cohabitants living together and the rules of what not to do. No cars, no pets, no money exchanges.
No joint pets, no joint.
Exactly. But today we learned a
shares.
new one. Today, don't give access to your credit card to anyone that you don't want racking up charges for any purpose, even to visit a secondary lover in another state.
You know, the divorce rate in this country is still hovering we're around 50%. The living togethers who don't quite make it to the marriage place is a much greater number.
Yeah.
Living togethers don't stay together 70% of the time. Why in the world would you buy a pet together?
It's a risk.
Car together? A timeshare together?
True.
Or give somebody a credit card.
Yeah.
At the time that you do it, you're happy with them. But since at least 70% of the time you're going to go your own separate ways, at that time you're mad at each other.
And the lines get blurry.
And the lines get blurry, absolutely.
Case number 2024, Morgan versus Davis. All parties, please step forward.
Corey Morgan is suing dress designer Jacqueline Davis for party costs and a dress deposit.
Miss Morgan, this is what this case is about in a nutshell. You were celebrating a birthday. When was your birthday?
March 24th.
And you always make a big deal, according to you, about your birthday. It's a very important day of the year for you and for everybody who knows you.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the way Sarah feels, actually. Me, I sort of like to forget birthdays now. I like it to run right by that day as undercovered as possible. Anyway, you celebrate your birthday with a big party.
Right.
And according to you, you get a spectacular dress for this party, invite everybody that you know and care about. How many people were you having for your birthday party?
It was going to be about 12 people.
Where was it going to be held?
It was going to be at the James Harden restaurant.
Who was going to be there?
My best friend from Chicago, my mom, my dad, just an intimate setting of family and friends.
Mom, dad, your best friend from Chicago. Who else?
Just family, cousins, aunt.
And you couldn't get the restaurant for that day, so you made it in April on a different day than your birthday.
Yes, I originally booked it in January 18th. The restaurant, it's a big deal, so yeah.
Whatever. It was postponed until what date?
Yes, ma'am, April.
Jacqueline Davis is responsible for party costs and a dress deposit. Jacqueline is countersuing, claiming Corey owes for travel costs.
And you ordered your dress from the defendant. You found her through a mutual friend because she makes wonderful clothes. The defendant also is a tax preparer, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So she's busy. So she makes clothes. She's a tax preparer in season. You made arrangements with her to make your dress, and she was going to make your dress at the cost of $300. According to you, you didn't get your dress in time. It was never fitted at all after your initial measurements were taken. Is that correct?
Yes.
And since you didn't have the dress for your dinner, you had a terrible birthday, you canceled your birthday, and you want her to pay for the dinner.
Yes.
Not happening.
Just the build up.
That's Miss Morgan. How old are you?
I just made 35, so it was the build up leading to it.
So if you turn 35, I'm a lot older. Sarah's younger, and my other grandchildren, you know, were around that age. I have one that's close to your age. I cannot imagine any of my older grandchildren, or me, for instance, canceling an event because I didn't have just the right dress. I mean, it's not as if a bride is canceling her wedding because she didn't have a wedding dress to wear. Of course, if you want to get married badly enough, you put a sack over your head with a tie and you walk down the aisle. But you don't cancel the wedding. So you want her to pay for the deposit that you made on the dress.
Yeah, it was.
And another $1,000 or more because you didn't have a nice party.
So originally when I booked it, it was for April 1st. When I tried to rebook it, because she told me at the last minute that she was not going to be able to do the dress, which was the week of. I had originally set up for her to do the dress so I could have something to wear. I purchased shoes, nails, everything.
I understand everything. She's not going to pay you for the party. You should have worn something else for the party. Believe me, your best friend from Chicago, your mother and your father would not have cared if you wore that dress or any other dress. You should not be out a penny.
I was out of penny.
Well, you were out $150. You gave her $150. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I gave it back to her. I sent her a refund.
Oh, you did send her a refund?
Yes.
Did you? Just a second. Up. When did you send her a refund, Miss Davis?
I sent her a refund on March 29th. She requested a refund on March 28th, and I sent it directly to her.
To her on March 29th?
Yes.
How did you send it? By check or?
She sent me the money via Cash App, and I returned it via Cash App.
Do you have verification of that?
Yes, I do.
And she kept that money?
Yes.
Is that correct, Miss Morgan?
Yes, ma'am.
That's just a yes.
Yes.
Well, what did you think you were taking that money for? You asked for a refund, she gave you a refund.
I gave her $150 and she sent me $105 back, but she sent it the week of my event. So
I don't care the week of your event. Did you send her 105 or?
I did.
Why?
Because I was charged a fee with Cash App, and also there were additional items that were purchased that I told her about that I deducted from that.
You can't deduct anything from that. And you can't even deduct the fee from Cash App because what it cost her was more than $150 then to send it to you, right?
Right.
Right. So why should you send her less?
Because I previously explained to her that I needed to order stones. Those stones were ordered.
Oh, then you're going to have to eat those. You didn't have the dress in time. You didn't have the dress in time.
The dress wasn't done.
No, it wasn't done. Not even according to you was it done. She hadn't had a fitting on it. The problem is you gave her money, and you should have sent her exactly what it is that she sent you because you didn't fulfill your end of the contract. A day before the party is not time to say it's 95% ready. Okay. She has to give you $145.88, which is exactly what she received. Am I correct that that's what she said?
That is what she said.
$145.88? Okay. She doesn't pay you for your disappointment, for your sorrow, for your party costs, or anything else, just for my own information, because that's my judgment. Did you spend your birthday with your mother and father? That's either yes or no.
No, ma'am.
Who did you spend your birthday with?
My boyfriend.
Oh, was he invited to the other party?
The dinner, yes, but I had to cancel the dinner.
I'm just asking.
Yes.
You didn't have to cancel the dinner because you didn't have a dress. That's what I'm trying to get to you. You could have gone to your dinner in that dress. I know, it's silly, and it's a little bit immature also. What about your best friend from Chicago? You told her not to come in because you didn't have a dress?
Well, I told him that I would be canceling the dinner because I purchased shoes, my nails, everything was accustomed to the dress. So when she didn't deliver the dress, everything was already in black and silver. I did not have a chance to go look for anything because it was the week of.
Oh, yes, of course you did. Of course you did, black and silver. You put on black pants, black top, and you put on silver around your neck. We're done here. Don't be ridiculous, Miss Morgan. You have to grow up a little. You have to give her back her money. Don't disappoint people. I mean, I know it's busy. It's tax time, you said to her. I'm busy. I'm working on things for the Oscars. You can't overstretch yourself. I know that it's very entrepreneurial to try to do too much. But sometimes when you try to do too much, you disappoint somebody.
This court is adjourned.
I'm not happy about it just because I'd already given her a refund.
I'm happy with the decision. It was pretty much principle for me. She was very unprofessional.
And given from the beginning, I worked with her. And she didn't respect my time, and she canceled on me at the last minute. And she waited to the last minute and canceled the order. So
she canceled at the last minute because she didn't have the dress ready to begin with.
Everything was really on her, but she put it on me because she was unhappy with how she chose to deal with the whole situation.
We'll be getting another dress with my original person that I was going to go to.
Absolutely not.
But from now on, I definitely will be going with who I know.
Will not work with the plaintiff again.
So I remember seeing through COVID, a lot of wedding dress shops closing down and the stress of brides going for fittings and seeing their dress, picking their dress, and then the shop just closed right out from under them. I wonder if any of them canceled their wedding because they didn't have the right dress.
I think that one of the life's lessons is as you get older, you have to prioritize the importance of things.
True. Spending time with friends, family, out of town, coming for your birthday. I couldn't imagine canceling an event just
because you didn't have the right
outfit.
dress. Because you didn't have the right dress. So I think that there's a lot of growing up to do, maybe a little less narcissism, because it would seem to me spending time with your boyfriend, your mother, your father, your best friend from Chicago is more important than having the right dress to fit your nails and your shoes.
I agree.
Maybe I'm just...
Michael Griniger is suing truck mechanic Sean Antle for a truck engine and repair costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2022, Griniger versus Intel.
Thank you. Mr. Griniger, how long have you and the defendant been friends?
I've known Sean probably maybe 3 or 4 years now.
From where?
He lives about 3 blocks away from me. I've met him through another friend that told me he worked on his vehicles before.
You did mechanical work?
Yes.
What kind of business are you in?
Construction, you name it, anything construction.
And you have a couple of trucks?
Yes.
How many?
I have one commercial vehicle, and then I just have a Chevy Avalanche.
The commercial vehicle, would you describe it to me? That's the one he was supposed to work on?
Yes.
Describe it to me, please.
It's a 16-foot box truck.
How old?
97.
1997?
Yes, ma'am.
It's as old as Sarah. And I suppose it needed a little work.
Yes.
And you took it to your friend.
Yes.
Did you drive it over there to his house 2 or 3 blocks away? Did you have it towed over to his place?
We had to have it towed over there. It was operable before.
But you had it towed.
Yes.
Yeah. And what month and year did you have it towed there?
I believe this started in June of 2020.
And Mr. Rantel, you looked at it and you determined it needed a new engine.
Well, I looked at it. Actually, I did some work prior to that. The intake manifold gasket was...
You mean before June of 2020?
Yes.
And then the truck was running? Then he took back...
Running very crappy.
So it was not running well even after you fixed it?
After I put the intake gasket on, I had it started, it made the same noise. We decided to put an engine in it.
Okay, so it wasn't working after the initial work you did on it?
No.
Decided to put an engine in it. How much was it to work on the engine?
He gave me a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. It was not all in one lump sum.
How much did he give you?
It was 100 here once, 100 twice, a couple different times, you know.
How much money did you give him?
800.
How much did you quote him for the whole job?
1,000.
So he gave you 800, and according to the papers that Mr. Griniger filed, he also purchased an engine.
Yes.
And this was in June of 2020.
I didn't get the motor at my house until I'm trying to think. It was in the winter, it was in December.
Of 2020?
Yes, 2020, yep.
Do you have the date that you purchased the engine?
Yes.
What was it?
January 7th, 2021.
Okay, so the truck sat on his property for 6 months.
Yes.
Before you got the engine, which was needed to fix it.
Yes. He said it was the intake plenum.
Was that in June of 2020?
Yeah, that's when it began. That's the whole...
Okay. When did he tell you that you needed an engine? In what month? Do you recall?
That was in January.
So the truck sat there, and finally you told him that it needed a new engine, but it was already sitting there for months.
I told him like 2 or 3 months prior to that.
Okay, so it was sitting there for 3 months or 4 months?
Yes.
And he'd already paid you the $800?
He gave me a little bit here and there, yes.
They already paid you the $800 towards the 1,000. So this is what the case is about. The truck has never been fixed. He doesn't have the engine anymore. He scrapped the engine, according to him. Yes. So you want what you paid for it, the engine.
Yes, Your Honor.
First of all, Mr. Ransell said, well, he worked on another truck for you, a smaller truck, and so that ate up the $800. And you didn't come for the engine, and finally he just sold it for scrap. Mr. Antel, were you very busy during this period of time?
Not really, no.
Well, could you tell me why it took 3 months for you to tell him that he needed a new engine?
He knew after I put the plenum gasket back on. I called him on the phone.
What month?
It had him in November, right before Thanksgiving.
So at the end of November. So you had the truck since June. June, July, August, September, October. You had the truck 6 months. Could you tell me why?
Why? I had problems with it. I couldn't get the bumper off. I couldn't do none of that.
Well, but that's your responsibility. You undertook a job.
Yeah, I took the job because he was supposed to help me, and he never did.
He was supposed to help you put in the new engine?
Help me get the bumper off, and then I had problems with the city of Brooklyn Center.
No. He was supposed to help you get the bumper off, and because you couldn't get the bumper off, you couldn't do the engine. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because it was rusted solid.
Shh. I assume, I've read your papers, I assume this is the mechanic that you say helped you work on another car for him that you gave money to?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why he's here.
Yep.
Okay. In what month and year did you fix this other car?
January
of 2021.
2022.
So in January 2022, the truck was where?
The Avalanche.
The big one.
At his house, at Mike
And
Rager's.
he brought you another truck?
Yes.
Which other truck did he bring you in?
The Chevy Avalanche.
The big truck, the commercial truck, is now back at his house.
Yes.
And it went back to his house because they were going to tow it from the city.
Yes.
And you say in January, he then brought you a different truck.
Yes, of 2022.
That you worked on.
Yeah, completed it.
Just a second. Do you recall that, sir?
No, it's not exactly how it went.
Did you, in January of 2022, did you bring him, you had the big commercial truck back at your house because it had to be moved.
Yep.
You hadn't gotten your $800 back?
Nope.
And he still had the engine?
Yep.
In January of this year?
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is
sorry.
an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Sean Ansel owes for a truck engine and repair costs. Sean is countersuing, claiming Michael filed a false police report against him.
Now, you hadn't gotten your $800 back?
Nope.
And he still had the engine?
Yep.
In January of this year?
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is
sorry.
an answer. So why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Because then I had absolutely no transportation. I needed something to work.
Just a second. You have a big truck, you had a little truck. So the big truck is now immobile, it's at your house. And the only working vehicle that you had needed work on it.
Yes.
So you brought it to him?
Yep.
Not yep. That's
yep.
yes.
Yes.
And he worked on it?
Yes.
Because it was inoperable?
No, it was operable, but he told me that...
Not he told you. You didn't bring it to him because he told you you were having trouble with it.
Yes.
What kind of trouble were you having with it?
There was a grinding
Oh, that's a
sound.
big deal. Grinding sound.
Yes.
What parts did it need?
Well, he told me it was the transfer case.
Did he fix your truck?
Eventually, but it was the rear end.
Just a second. Eventually, did he fix, take your hands out of your pockets, did he fix the truck? The second one? The smaller one?
Yeah.
The one that you needed for
Yes,
transportation?
eventually, yes, he did. He put in a rear end.
Okay. Did you pay him for that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How much did you pay for that?
$300.
How long did he have it?
Oh, he did that within about a week.
2 days.
2 days. Okay. So it took you 2 days?
Yes.
Did you give him a bill for that work?
I didn't give him nothing, just a word of mouth.
He says that he gave you $300 to fix that car. Did he give you $300 to fix that car?
No, he did not.
Okay, do you have any proof?
$600 altogether.
Just a second. Would you please show me any proof that you have that you gave him $300 to fix that car?
I don't have proof of the money that I gave him. I just have the receipt.
He doesn't got it.
Okay. I just have the receipts for the parts that I bought for the vehicle.
Okay.
He first said it was the transfer case. I buy a transfer case.
Doesn't matter. He's working, so...
Yeah, but I paid him to do something. He took something apart of the truck. It wasn't even the problem. But yet I still paid him for it.
But this, quite honestly, I don't
And then
understand.
I paid him for the rear end, too.
I don't understand a couple of things.
Okay.
If I've been disappointed by a workman, as you clearly were, from June 2020 until January 2022, because they hadn't completed a job for you, despite the fact that you purchased the part, I wouldn't call that same mechanic back. I wouldn't call that same plumber back. I wouldn't call that same electrician back because I'd had a bad experience with them. So it confounds me as to why you would take another vehicle to him if you were so dissatisfied with his work.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, so what?
Felt like I was in, in a tight spot, and I really couldn't
What kind of
afford.
tight spot were you in? Where do you live?
I live in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, that's a big town. There are lots of mechanics there. There are lots of auto repair, truck repair.
Yeah, but I really financially couldn't afford legitimate.
Well, that's what happens when you deal with a legitimate. But I don't understand why an otherwise intelligent man would take his only semi-operating vehicle to the same person who had his truck for a year and didn't fix it. Listen, what'd you do with his engine?
I scrapped it.
Okay. Don't be mad at me.
Huh?
Don't be mad at me.
I'm not. I love you.
Okay, good. Thank you. When did you scrap it?
The end of April of 2022.
Did you give him any notice that you were going to scrap his engine?
No, I did not. There's a false police report made against me.
Okay.
I have the case number and the officer's number.
Okay, just a sec. So you retaliated because that's your counterclaim, that he filed a false police report, as a result of which, and the false police report said that during the course of a heated argument about this truck, that he says that you pulled a gun and...
Did not.
Filed a police report.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Don't?
You did.
Prove it. You can't.
Mr. Rantel. And that's your counterclaim, that he filed this false police report and nothing ever came of it except you were embarrassed by being questioned by the police in front of family members.
Yes.
And as a result of that false police report, you threw away his motor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, you can't do that. That you can't do. How much did you pay for the motor, sir?
$690 plus I paid $100 for delivery of the motor.
I'd like to see the invoice for that.
I got the invoice for the motor, but
That's all I need.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Rantel, so that we're clear, you have to understand you can't get even by selling somebody else's property.
I didn't
What you
sell
do?
it. I didn't sell it. I
Scrap.
gave it away.
It doesn't matter. By disposing of. Let's make it disposing of. When you say you scrapped it, you mean nobody gave you $10 for it?
Not a dime.
Okay, then you can't give it away in retaliation.
Why
for
not?
filing.
Why not? It was in my possession.
No, because you took
try to put me in jail for not something I didn't do.
Just a second. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. You cannot sell someone else's property in retaliation for them doing something to you when you have legal recourse. Your legal recourse is to come here and file a case. You did it as a counterclaim and say he filed a false police report against me that I was using a gun. So that's what you do. The response to that isn't, I'm going to sell his property. That's not your response. You know, when I used to sit in family court, I had young people, one of whom was selling drugs for a very long time, heavy drugs. Kid, 15, 16 years old. And he had 6 or 7 priors for selling heavy-duty drugs. And I tried that case, and there was no question he was selling drugs. And his lawyer's argument at the disposition stage of that case was he was selling drugs because his grandmother died. I said, I lost all my grandparents, and I was close to my grandparents. I did a lot of things. I grieved, lost my appetite for a while. I was sad, but I didn't sell drugs. So when somebody does something to you that you believe is against the law, your responsibility is you file a case against them.
Right.
You proceed legally against them. You don't take it out in another way, because that doesn't make a civilized society. Just doesn't. That makes sort of a vigilante kind of thing. So you shouldn't do that. So you have to pay him for his engine. Now, as far as the second piece of your case is the $800 that you gave him, I have no idea how much it was to fix your second car, but he did in fact fix it. And since you had no particular agreement with him on how much it was, and according to you, you couldn't deal with someone, you didn't have the funds to deal with someone who was, I think the word was legitimate.
Legitimate.
That's a problem that I can't resolve for you. Now let's get to this argument and his counterclaim. The argument that you had was over the truck.
The white truck? Yes.
Any truck. I don't care what.
Yes.
I'm not a truck girl myself. I like 4-door comfortable sedans. And this argument took place on what date? Why don't you tell me, Mr. Rantel, because this is your counterclaim.
It was the end of April.
End of April of 2022.
Yes.
And the police were called.
No, ma'am.
Yes, the police were called. They showed up at my place.
No, the police report is 7/25/22.
7/25/22.
May I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor.
That's a lie, because it was April.
I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
Truck mechanic Sean Antle of wrongfully selling his engine and threatening him. Sean claims Michael accused him of flashing a gun he never owned.
Now, I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Gruniger?
About a year now.
What were you doing driving a vehicle?
I wasn't. They were towing the vehicle with a tow chain.
I understand that. But you drive a vehicle, sir.
I was steering the vehicle.
What does that mean, you were steering the vehicle?
Driving it.
The vehicle
Just-
moving at 4 miles an hour.
I don't care if it was running backwards. I just asked you. You have no license because according to the police, you having a driver's license would be inimical to public safety. That's what it says here. Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Serious ones? Yes. Okay. You don't need a truck. You don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? I was only going 4 miles an hour. I will set the rules of what it is that means driving. You go 5 miles an hour, it's really not
He lives
driving.
3 blocks away from him. We were just
I don't care.
towing it down the street.
I don't care whether you were in the kitchen, he was in the laundry room. And when you spoke to the police, Mr. Gruniger, there were 2 other witnesses, and you would not give them the last name or contact information for either of them. Is that right? That's what it says here, unless it's calling
Yeah,
the
I
police
didn't know his last name.
And you wouldn't give them your son's name because you say he doesn't like police.
And that I want to make straight. That is not true. I would not tell a police officer my son
It should
doesn't
be noted
like
that Gruniger stated that Michael Jr. would not give a statement because he didn't like police.
Right.
As well as
That's
Gruniger
not
would
true.
not
My little
give the
brother's
phone
a
number
police
for Michael
officer.
Jr. I'm just telling you, I'm reading you what
I know, I'm
what
sorry.
you handed me. It's your evidence.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okie dokie. Did you make an application, Mr. Gruniger, for any sort of protective order against him?
No.
No. You were advised by the police that you could do that if you wanted to.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, that report is interesting.
It was you, your son, and this person, Kyle, who were present, and only Mr. Antel. Is that right, when this confrontation took place?
Yes.
And according to you, you got out of your truck and you started walking towards him aggressively. That's according to you.
That's not true. He's 40 feet away from me.
No. According to you, I'm reading you what your police report says, sir.
Yeah, but...
I'm reading what your police report says based upon what you told the police at the time back in April.
It's not entirely correct.
Griniger stated that he started advancing towards Antel. Griniger also stated that he called Antel you while he was walking towards him. It should be noted that Griniger stated, and this is all on body cam, that he was walking towards Antel aggressively. Griniger stated that Antel then pulled what he described as a black handgun out of his sweatshirt pocket. He described it as black and silver trim. He stated that he did not point it or say anything, just showed it to him to make you aware that he was carrying. And after the police interviewed both of you and confirmed the two people with you were out and you were walking and confronting him aggressively, called his names, and could not confirm the fact that he had a gun, took out a gun, not pointed it to you, just showed you that he had it, they decided to do nothing. That's what you're telling me. That's what this report says.
Yeah, they didn't validate it as a threat.
They did not validate it at all.
Right.
Okay, so... Mr. Rantel.
Yes.
What happened after that report is that police officers came to your house to ask you about that.
Yes.
Right? And you said, related practically the same thing that Mr. Griniger did to the police, that he approached you, that he called you a name, that he was aggressive. You said all of that.
Yes.
But you said you did not have a gun.
That's right.
Okay. And this is not meant to hold you criminally responsible for anything. Mr. Rantel, have you ever had possession of a gun?
No.
Ever in your life?
No.
Did you ever purchase a gun?
No.
In your state, in order to purchase a gun legally, do you have to go through a process or is it a carry state?
You gotta go through a legal process.
You have to?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever arrested for carrying a gun?
No.
Other than your statement that he showed you that he had a gun, and how far was he standing from you?
About 40 feet.
40 feet away. And you saw him take something out of his sweatshirt pocket.
He didn't remove it out of his pocket. He removed his hand covering it.
What does that mean?
It was in his pocket. He was wearing a hoodie.
How do you know it was in his pocket? What do you have, X-ray vision?
No, my son seen it because his vehicle was right alongside his vehicle. So my son seen it, and then when he got back in his car and pulled up another 10 feet and got out of his car, turned around and said, yeah, bring it, and a few expletives, and then pulled his hand out of his hoodie pocket and revealed the handle of the gun.
Just a second. So you're saying at that time you saw it?
Yes.
You saw it, not your son
My
40
son
feet away,
seen it
not son 40 feet away.
That's a lie.
But you
saw. He reached in and grabbed it and put it in his sweater because when he got back out of the car to face me is when he decided to show me he had a gun.
Okay. Were you out of your truck at the time?
Yes, I was standing beside
Okay,
him.
so you were out of your truck. And what about your son? Was he out of the truck?
Nope.
He was in. What about Kylie?
He remained in the truck, too. He was the one in front pulling the truck that I was steering, and he was following behind. It was a little convoy.
And Mr. Rantel was by himself?
Yes. He was driving down the street in the opposite direction.
Mr. Rantel, I am not satisfied, quite frankly, and cannot make a determination whether or not you had a gun or what appeared to be a gun or what appeared to be something in your pocket or whether you even moved your hand in your pocket to demonstrate maybe you had a weapon. I don't find that the acts that you allege that he committed by filing this false police report is something that I can justify giving you a financial award for, because I'm not so sure that you didn't have something in your pocket. I'm not sure. In any event, Mr. Rantel, you owe him for the engine that you discarded in a peak. You can't do that. Cost of the engine was $590, right? $590. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished.
Your Honor.
Court is adjourned.
I was kind of in a hard spot. I needed my truck fixed.
Try to push me and push me.
I trusted him.
It didn't work today. I won.
Truck is inoperable. It's sitting in my backyard.
I worked for what he gave me.
So I really couldn't afford, like I said, a legitimate shop or a mechanic.
I've never owned a pistol.
Yeah, he's lying.
Basically, if I'm gonna fight with my bare hands.
Don't do anything without any receipts.
Our friendship is through.
You know, it's really hard when you have two difficult people, but there was something about what he said that had the ring of truth to it.
Very honest.
A directness. And I'm really not convinced. Were you?
No, I wasn't either.
That he had a gun.
It could have gone either way, and while I believed his outburst of innocence, I couldn't imagine making something like that up, but maybe that's just me. So it was really difficult. I don't think I could have made a determination either way either.
Yeah, and I think the answer is here. If you can't make a decision one way or another, it's not supposed to be a guess. It's supposed to be by some evidence.
Yeah.
But you can't sort of take the law into your own hands, and if you filed a police report, I'm going to scrap his engine. That's inappropriate. But with regard to the $800 that he paid him, there's no question he worked on the other truck. And he said he worked on it for 2 days.
To drive it.
And the plaintiff didn't have a license to drive it anyway.
Yeah.
And Sarah, didn't he say, I needed one functional vehicle? So something like that.
We'll have to get Whitney to read it back.
Yeah.
19-year-old Isabel Irwin is suing her father, Neil Irwin, for personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 27, Irwin versus Irwin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Irwin, this is your dad?
Yes, he is.
And you're 19?
Yes, I am.
According to what I read in your complaint, your parents divorced when you were 10.
Yes.
And your father was your primary custodian. You lived with him.
Yes, I did.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
When you were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, did you live with your father?
At the age of 15, I moved out because...
Okay, so at age 15, you moved out?
Yes.
Because here you said, when I was 18, my father kicked me out of the house for no good reason.
Yes.
Yes, what? Well, you just told me that you left the house when you were 15.
Yes, and I lived with my mother for 2 years, and...
Okay, so from age 15 to 17, you lived with your mother.
Yes.
Is that because you were having difficulty with your father?
Yes.
Okay, and then you went to live with your mother.
Yes.
But that didn't last.
No.
So now, at 17, you go back to your father.
Yes.
And you stayed with him until you were 18.
Yes, correct.
So far, I have the fact that your family is a little dysfunctional, but that you had certain problems.
I moved out when I was 18.
Just to say that. Would that be a fair statement, that you had some problems?
No, it would not be.
Okay. What high school did you graduate from?
It's a school partnered with the National Guard for kids that are off track to get them back on track.
Did you have to pay for that school?
No, they are paid by the government.
Could you look them up for me?
Yeah, it's a residential program for youths aged 16 to 18 who've dropped out of school or who are seriously behind in credits and need to catch up quickly.
Okay, so you were dropped out of school?
No.
Or seriously behind?
Yes. Dropped out or behind in credits.
Okay. And how old were you when you graduated from...
I was 17 years old.
And so at that point, you moved in with your father?
Yes.
And why did you leave when you were 18?
He had evicted me.
Okay. And I'd like you to tell me your version of his evicting you when you were 18, because this case involves you're suing your father for items that he disposed of that were yours, and you want this court to award you $7,400 for the things that he disposed of that were yours.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me why you believe he evicted you when you were 18.
I believe he evicted me when I was 18 because I was buying my first car and he got jealous of the car I had, and he stated that when I moved back in for the second time. He evicted me the second...
No. We're on the first time that your father evicted you, not the second time. The first time your father evicted you, I can ask him, or you want me to stay with you?
You can ask him.
Fine. Tell me why you evicted her the first time, which you did.
The main reasons would be that she agreed to pay rent, which she never did.
She working?
Off and on. I'd say over the past 2 years, she's probably had, from my guesstimate, 15 to 20 jobs, all ranging from an hour or a day, I think the longest being about 3 months. Can't maintain a job, would prefer to smoke pot all day in her room and hang out with her boyfriend, basically. Which at the time, for the first eviction, she did not know Corey.
Okay.
But she still does the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. That's what you indicate here. So that was the reason that you evicted her the first time. And that was maybe in June?
I would have filed that June 9th of 2021.
June. Okay. But she came back shortly thereafter, in October.
The sheriffs removed her August 13th, 2021.
Is that because you asked her to leave and she wouldn't?
It's a 3-step process. and I had a 24-hour notice posted to the door after 34 days.
Well, I mean, she's your daughter.
Yeah.
So there must have been some discussion, Mr. Irwin, with her, you saying to her, listen, this is not working out.
There wasn't a discussion, Your Honor.
Was not?
I served her the first notice. We talked about it.
Oh, you talked about it?
Prior to me filing. I told her I would do it. I don't think she believed me.
She knew you wanted her to leave as a result of that discussion.
Yes.
And she didn't.
She did not.
She had lived with you off and on, with the exception of 2 years that she lived with her mother, and part of it in a residential program. It's a residential program, correct?
Yes.
When she lived with you, she was 10 years old. Can you tell me, Mr. Irwin, from the time she was 10 until the time she was 18 and she was ultimately evicted, what items in the house she purchased? Bed, TVs, anything big?
She never purchased anything.
When she came back from her mother, what did she come back with?
I believe just a few clothes and a bag. She had to kind of run back.
And to the best of your knowledge, had your daughter maintained any sort of gainful employment the last 3 years?
No.
So other than the clothes she came back with when she was 17, there were no big-ticket items?
There were a few by the time I had to evict her the second time, but I would have furnished those, being, you know, bed set, furniture,
bed.
Tempur-Pedic bed. I think that's part of what she's really wanting out of this $7,400.
Okay, so you purchased a bed?
Yes.
Because you didn't have one in the room where she was?
I was just trying to take care, yeah. I was using the room for my own purposes. I live alone until she moved back in, and usually welcoming of my daughter coming home, so I furnished a room.
Okay, so that's why you left the first time. The first time you left because he got annoyed that you were hanging around doing nothing and smoking pot.
I did pay rent,
right.
too.
Right.
No,
and weren't doing it much.
No, I was not smoking often.
We're not doing much, is what I said.
Yes, I had a job. I worked at the beginning of the year.
For how many days?
I worked there for about 3 months, and then I worked as a kennel technician for about 2 months.
What happened to both those jobs?
My dad, his alcoholism, he would never let me sleep in the room as I was paying rent, and he would lock me out. He would lock me out. He would lock me out, and he would flip the garage switch, so I wasn't able to get access to the house. I wasn't able to get clean, so I couldn't obtain the job, and my mental health wasn't there for that job, so that's why I took the kennel technician job, and that's when he evicted me.
Where are you living now?
With my boyfriend.
That's him?
Yes.
And where are you working now?
I am unemployed.
Sorry, that's easy. So now you're not working. Now nobody's locked you out. Nobody's made it impossible for you to work. And what kind of work does your boyfriend do?
He is construction. I do DoorDash.
Okay. Your boyfriend is construction?
Yes.
How old is he?
He is 20 years old.
You're Corey?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who do you live with?
My mom and her new husband.
How did I know that? How did I just know that? It's so perfect to be old that, I mean, I asked the questions. I could have asked the questions and answered the questions. So you and your girlfriend live with your mother?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what's the name of the company that you work for?
Landscape.
Do you work for them full time?
Yes, I do.
For how long?
I've been working for them about 2 months now.
2 months?
Yes.
Prior to that, what did you do?
I worked for Chewy.
Chewy, the dog products?
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened to that job?
I just wasn't liking the job anymore, and I thought I could do a lot harder work, and that's what I strive to do, is just continue trying to be the best person I can.
And what does your girlfriend do all day when you're out in your landscaping job for the last 2 months?
She stays busy going to the gym and making sure that everything is in tip-top shape, and just bringing me lunch when I'm on my break for work.
And you're living in your mom's house. Be a fair statement. You don't have to be a math wizard, which I am not, because you don't have enough money to move out into your own place.
Yes, Your Honor.
Does your mom work?
Yes, she does.
Who else lives in the house?
Her newly husband.
Now, you have a room in your mom's house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it furnished?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who bought the furniture?
I bought the bed set, and...
Tell me when you bought the bed set.
I bought it about 2 years ago because we moved there recently.
So what you're telling me is you purchased a new mattress?
Yes.
With your earnings?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much was it?
It was about $1,500.
And if you left the house, you would want to take your mattress because you bought it.
Yes, Your Honor.
You wouldn't take any of the other furniture in the house because you didn't buy it.
Yes, correct.
Whether it's your dresser or a TV in your room, your parents bought that.
Yeah.
The mattress you bought.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you can sit.
19-year-old Isabel Irwin claims her father, Neil Irwin, owes for personal belongings.
Now, I'm going to sort of pull this together. Eventually, you moved back into the house after an initial eviction, and you weren't doing well, I assume.
Yes.
And then you came back a couple of months later and asked your father if you could move back in.
Yes.
And he said, okay.
Yes.
And that didn't work out. He was unhappy with the arrangement.
I was paying rent before. He was kicking me out, so I decided not to pay rent.
Whatever the reason, he wasn't happy with it. You were gone for a couple of months.
He evicted me, yes.
Yes. Well, he evicted you for a reason, Miss Irwin. You have to stop being a baby. He evicted you for a reason. He took you back because you went there. You said, I have no place to go. I assume, without going into specifics, because you look a little frightened, and I don't have to get that crazed with you because it sounds like a very sad situation. He said, it's not working out again. I want you to leave. And when you left, you did not, according to you, take your stuff. And your father, at some point after he received a text message from you, which I assume you have, sir.
I do.
Which said, have a nice life. After he received that, waited a while and disposed.
That was a statement I made because I asked him to help me fill up my tires because they needed air, and I saw him pull into the Safeway parking lot and leave with his groceries, and he never helped me.
Okay. So you said, have a nice life. And then you want a whole bunch of things from the house. Now, I want you to tell me, with your limited work history, which you have, hardly enough to sustain yourself, because in October you came back to him and said, I need a place to live. So I want you to tell me what you purchased.
I purchased the Tempur-Pedic bed.
And who did you purchase it from?
My father.
You purchased it from your father?
Yes, he made the original purchase and said I could just give him the money, which I did.
Okay. And how much did you give him for the mattress?
$3,000.
That's incorrect.
Show me that you gave him $3,000. I can't figure that you had saved $3,000.
I gave him that to purchase the mattress because that was the time I was purchasing my car.
How could you purchase a car? You don't work. You don't work.
The first one
This doesn't tell me anything.
Transaction that
this doesn't tell me anything. You want to tell me that tells me nothing. You want to give that to her. I would have to find credible, Miss Irwin, that you had managed to save from your job that you had for 3 months while you claim you were paying your father rent $3,000.
It was the leftover money from me purchasing my car.
Oh, I don't believe that. For 1 second. Okay, you want to tell me about the mattress, sir?
Okay, simply put, I got one for myself when she wasn't living with me, and the mattress I furnished her with, it was a Ford model. He gave me a good deal on it. I think it retails about $3,500. I got it for $2,300. My daughter and I did have an agreement that she could purchase the mattress for $1,800. However, as you may have figured out, that did not occur.
And this was after she moved back in October, or when she was...
Yep. Yes, it was.
After she moved back in October?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The mattress is staying where it is. Okay. Now let's go to dresser, nightstand, and TV. So you acknowledge that none of those things you purchased, bed, dresser, nightstand, and TV.
No, I did not purchase them.
Okay. Now that's your father's. He threw out my clothes, shoes, and jewelry. Now, you were evicted.
Yes.
Was it an actual eviction? Did marshals come to the house?
No. I got served the eviction notice on June 30th. He illegally locked me out.
No. Just June 30th.
Yes.
So on June 30th, you were given an eviction notice that said that you had to be out on what date?
In 30 days.
Okay. So far, is that correct, Mr. Irwin?
It's fairly correct. I do have the 30-day no-cause notice to quit that she was served.
Okay. And on what date did you leave?
On July 1st, because he had thrown a camera
Just a second.
at my boyfriend.
You left on July 1st?
Yes.
Tell me how you left.
I packed a small bag, and I had left.
You packed a small bag that contained what?
A few of my clothes and whatever I could grab for a few nights.
And where did you go?
To my boyfriend's house.
So you went to Corey's house?
Yes.
Do you have a laptop?
I do not.
Do you have a phone?
Yes, I do.
Did you take the phone?
Yes, I did.
You took some clothes with you, and you knew that you had an eviction notice, correct?
Yes.
Tell me what jewelry you allege your father threw out.
He threw out my necklace my boyfriend had bought me. He
Okay.
threw out...
Which boyfriend?
This boyfriend, Corey.
Tell me about the necklace.
He had purchased it for my birthday.
Okay. Stand up, Corey. Tell me about the necklace you purchased.
I had purchased it from K Jewelers. I had purchased it for about $250.
Okay. When?
On her birthday, just a little before.
When's her birthday?
February 20th.
Did she wear the necklace?
Yes, Your Honor.
Every day?
No, just on occasions, whenever we'd go out and do stuff and all that.
When she came to your house with her bag, did you ever see the necklace again?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Do you know where this necklace is?
I do not.
Did you throw away a necklace?
I guess anything's possible because when she left and sent me the "have a nice rest of your life" text, it looked like a hoarder's room, so I guess anything could have been in there.
Who cleaned it up?
I did.
Didn't see a necklace?
Didn't see a necklace.
Okay. Were you looking for anything of value?
I wasn't looking for anything. To me, it looked like old clothes that probably hadn't been worn in years.
Okay.
I just wanted to clear out the room.
Fine. Have a seat. Other than that necklace, what other jewelry did you have?
I had some rings I purchased from Ojai, California on a trip I previously took for my dad.
Okay. What else? You took a bag of clothes. What specific, because you had jewelry, shoes. I assume you took some shoes with you because you were going to be there.
Not.
Well, you were wearing a pair of shoes.
Yes, I was. I was wearing my old shoes.
Okay. When you got rid of all of the stuff, Mr. Irwin, you didn't go through any of it?
No, I did not.
Did you give her any notice that she had 10 days, 2 weeks to get her stuff?
I did not give her notice.
On what date did you dispose of all of her stuff?
It would have been around July 20th, about 20 days after or so.
Okay. Well, but even according to your eviction notice, she had 30 days to vacate.
Well, if you read the actual eviction notice, it's 5 days. After 5 days, you have to file another part of the eviction notice, which is unlawful detainer, meaning that she is now there illegally. So she left within the 5 days, willfully.
19-year-old Isabel Irwin has accused her father, Neil Irwin, of throwing out her personal property. Neil claims he paid for Isabel's belongings.
Okay, so you didn't file the next step.
I did not.
So she left within 5 days. That was the
Yes.
and she just left the place a mess.
A mess, yes.
Okay, who is this?
This is my mother, Janice Leonard.
Could you stand up, please, for a moment? Miss Leonard, how many grandkids do you have?
Well, from Neil to I have 6.
Did you and Miss Irwin get along?
Oh, yes. She came to, we lived in Idaho at the time. I had an equestrian center. So every summer she would be there all summer long. We taught her to ride. She had the best horses. She jumped. She was a fantastic rider. But as the years went on, it was just getting more difficult. When she turned 14, her behavior changed drastically.
Can you describe, I know that you moved back to where your son lived. And according to the answer, he gave you a key to the house. He was in Las Vegas on a trip.
That's correct.
Could you describe when you went into the house what Miss Irwin's room looked like?
Every time I would go over there, the house would be worse every single day. And there was a very strong, pungent smell, so I thought the dogs were going to the bathroom. Her room was a total disaster. There's clothes literally strewn, I don't know how tall, but 12 inches maybe. Nothing was ever picked up. And one day, before Neil came back, I said, this place is really smelling bad. And later I learned that they were smoking marijuana. They would be in the bedroom and giggling and in the bathroom together. And when I would come, she'd only be there for maybe 20 minutes and they both would leave. There was no respect, I have to say. I've seen her in action and she can be very nice and very polite, but there's a whole nother side that is actually very scary, to the point when she was years ago, 14, my husband and I were locking our bedroom door because we were afraid of her when she stayed.
Okay, thank you. Isabel, is that what they call you, or they have a
Yes.
Isabel. Word of advice, caution, you're 19?
Yes.
You look older. That's not a compliment. You seem like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you.
But I see issues there of blaming everyone else, and it's very possible that your father and your mother and other people share the blame in your issues. That's possible. But at this point in your life, Isabel, you're just starting, and you can either spend your life blaming somebody else, parents, grandparents, siblings, for where you are, or you can say, I have to get myself some help and put a period, because I'm 19 years old and I want to live to be 79. And right now, that doesn't look good for you. I'm telling you, you look troubled and older than your years. Your father looks better. Your grandmother looks better. They look appropriate to their age and stage and clearer. So I think that you should get some help. I also think, Mr. Irwin, there were things in her room, and believe me, I have seen rooms like that. You know, I have been involved with lots of kids and grandchildren. Most of them grow up, and once they get a place of their own, they walk around with a bottle of Windex and Bounty and clean up after everybody's fingerprints. But if they're living in their parents' house or their grandparents' house, they live like slobs. Sometimes that never changes. But, you know, there's messy, and then there is dysfunctional. And what you are describing is dysfunctional. And I think if your daughter was honest, she would look and she would say, that's dysfunctional. You were in the room, Corey?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stand up. Would you describe your girlfriend's room in her father's house as evidence of being dysfunctional? Not a Right here, Corey.
Okay.
Does her room look like your room?
No, it does not, Your Honor.
Okay. Would your mother permit your room to look like her room? It's not an answer, Corey. Would your mother permit your room that you're sharing to look like the room that was in his house where your girlfriend lived and you stayed occasionally?
No, Your Honor.
No. Okay, sit down. You should have looked for the necklace. He gave me an honest answer to everything that I asked him. So the necklaces was probably mixed in with a load of garbage that was there.
To say the least.
That was accumulated. It was like a hoarder. So I'm
Your
awarding
Honor,
you.
I have a
you give
video
it to your
of the
boyfriend.
room.
$250 to go and buy her a new necklace. Thank you very much. This case is over.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I agree with the judge's decision 100%. I think it was very fair.
I think it wasn't fair.
She has so much more potential than what she's doing right now.
I was just trying to get my belongings, and he literally just never wanted me to do it.
She's a great kid, and all reality, she's just making some wrong decisions right now.
I haven't made any really bad decisions. It's all been influenced by my father. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I hope she grows up, and I love her.
I know I need to grow up, but he evicted me, gave me 2 days, and I didn't want to make them.
I hope you weren't talking about me when you were thinking of your grandchildren keeping messy rooms. I try and be neat and nice and organized.
Well, I wasn't thinking about you today as a law school graduate, but I do remember when you were in college and you were staying with us rather than in the dorm, keeping your door closed because it looked like somebody hit your room with a Mixmaster.
Maybe just a few too many open suitcases, I guess.
Yeah, open, unpacked suitcases. But got older and more respectful, and then you had your own apartment, and I remember visiting your apartment, and I said, who is it that lives here? I couldn't figure out who lived here. It's not the same person who lived with me.
It's a maturity thing, and I think I was shocked to see that she was only 19 years old, in line with what you said to her, that she looks older beyond her years, and some difficulty can do that to you, but you have to take accountability and do what you can to make your life organized and set yourself up for success.
That, you know, all that is true. I'm not sure that she has all the tools to do that, and I don't know if she has anybody there to guide her. It's too bad because she seems like an intelligent young woman, and her grandmother certainly portrayed a picture of a child who was accomplished when she was younger and then